We're back. Lost. Nice. Let's just keep playing with sound effects for a good couple more minutes to get everybody into the mix.
Yeah, because that's what that'll do.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we took a little breaky poo, but we are back in action. But while we were on our break, we did not stop watching TV shows.
Oh, God, no. God, no. If anything, we took down the mother of TV shows.
Well, the mother of all TV shows would be like, what, ER or West Wing? Like something that has, I don't know how many seasons ER has, but something that has like 10 seasons of television. Like that would have been a real challenge.
Yeah.
And that we would have conquered. We conquered 6 seasons of television, mostly around like 20 episodes apiece.
But they're 40 minutes.
Yeah, 40 minutes a pop though. So I mean, it was really quite the endeavor.
It took longer than I thought it was going to take us.
Yeah?
At the rate that we started, we were clipping along, getting season after season done, and then we had several hiccups, and I'm trying to think of what they were.
Well,
I think they were all your fault.
COVID helped. COVID helped because it shut down the whole theater department at one point.
Sure.
And we got to watch a lot of Lost. And that was awesome. But then, yeah, there was a moment where things slowed way down. And then we picked it up during Christmas break. We hit like a couple more seasons in Christmas break. And then the final season, we had to wait for like 2 months while I was in thesis.
Yeah.
So we would have had this to you guys like a little after Christmas if I just didn't have to do stupid school.
Yeah.
I'm done with it. I'm not going back.
I know. I think let's both quit our jobs and let's just do this all the time.
Yeah.
Listeners, what do you say?
Because I have 2 months left. I'll just finish those 2 months like somewhere down the line. They'll let me. Be like, hey, I'm done watching Lost now like for the 3rd time. Can I take those classes again? So we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll fix it in post, as they say in the industry. Only this is real life. We'll fix it in post. Rach.
Hey.
All right, I'm going to give you a very, very strong task right now.
Oh, God. Wait, are you going to... it's one of two things. Either I have to already do the synopsis, or I have to tell our listeners how they can find us.
Oh!
Which is it?
Well, I mean, I think that by now they've found us.
We can't assume
I feel
anything.
good about it.
We can't assume.
So if you haven't found us yet, which I don't know how you're listening to this.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense, but you can find us pretty much everywhere podcasts are. Spotify, iTunes, Audible. No, we're not on Audible. I'm going to start saying ones that we're not on. Great Courses Plus.
Masterclasses on YouTube TV.
It's a great one. Yeah, we do a masterclass on how to make a
Be
successful
piles of
podcast in your closet.
Laziness.
But yes, so hopefully you found us, and you can find us in a lot of different areas. Pretty much wherever podcasts are, you're going to be able to find us there. So enjoy at your own leisure and find us in your own spot. You know, we all have our places we like. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and go back and listen to some of the old past episodes. They're super fun. Yeah. We have some real doozies. Some are more entertaining than others. Some are more informative than others. So it kind of depends on what you're in the mood for. I always say, like, start with a few movies that you really like and then start to expand a little bit.
Yeah. Even if you haven't seen it, I'll be honest, I think we do a decent job of getting to the point so that even though if you haven't seen it, you'll get why it's funny.
Yep.
Or maybe why it's not.
For sure. Absolutely. That's a great point. And Rach, you want to give them a little lowdown on what our concept is for this podcast? Like if this is their first time joining us?
Sure. Yes. If you are one of our first time listeners, so Ty and I, husband and wife duo, and what we like to do is, open each other's worlds up by showing them what they've missed maybe growing up. So it could be like childhood favorite movies, or in this case, a TV series that, really hit home for a young adult in his early development. So, yeah, and then we kind of just tease it apart, and then typically it ends with us like ruining each other's favorite movies,
Yeah.
but sometimes
There's a lot of hurtful things that are said during this
Yeah.
podcast. Like the new Mortal Kombat movie is about to come out, and I know it's going to drum up some of the old hurtful things that Rach said about Mortal Kombat. Or maybe like my own despising of Devil Wears Prada is going to come out a little bit, and that hurts people's feelings. So like, yeah, a lot of times we end up shitting on each other, and that's kind of fun too. But we decided to watch the TV series Lost. Now, Rach, you resisted this for so long, and I want you to take the viewers through why were you so resistant to embracing this beautiful, wonderful, lovely show that changed the nature of television for so long.
Interesting, the intro. I'll be curious to see if you can back that last piece up a little bit.
Oh, I can.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I don't even remember the first time that I attempted to watch Lost.
We were up in the city, so it would have been like
so later
2013
in life.
on, yeah.
Yeah. So, boy, you had raved about it for so long, and I knew it was one of your favorite shows. And as a good partner, I thought, yeah, let me dig into your psyche a little bit. I want to find out what makes you tick and why you like this show so much, and why maybe you relate to some of the characters so much, because you would always kind of refer to them.
Oh, this is such a Jack moment.
No,
this is such a Locke moment.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
I needed to know
So Kate
what
of you.
you were talking about. So, I watched a couple of episodes, and I gotta tell you guys, it was rough. It was rough to start.
Which is funny because I think the pilot episode's so good.
You know what? Now, if I watched it a second time, I probably would really enjoy it. But I'm trying to think of some of my initial qualms with it. I think
I
there's
remember
just
one big one.
Well, I'll get to that one, I think. But I think just initially, it's so action-packed, and there's so many people to learn, and you don't really know who's important and who's not. And so it's a bit of a sensory overload to start, which makes sense.
It's a plane crash.
We crashed on an island. Things are crazy.
Things are nuts.
And it's not just a normal island. And so that's also when things got to be a little bit weird for me. And I think it was only maybe episode 2 or 3 when we started to have some goings-on the island that could not be explained by, typical science. And so that bothered me. And specifically, when a polar bear came out of the woods, the forest, I thought it had a laser on its head. I thought I'd remember that. It didn't, but it was that kind of that feel.
How great would it have been if that polar bear had a laser on its head, though? And it shot, it
I was
fried
looking
somebody,
for it the second time.
turned them like into a skeleton or something. It's like, what the heck is going on around here?
Yeah, we got through that episode together, and I was like, yep, and that's when I stopped. Because I was not motivated. Now, we got through it, and I would say, I think we even talked to somebody about this, but I think it's like episode 8, maybe. It's like mid-season 1, I was hooked. And I was ready to go on the journey. But it took me that long, listeners, to get into it. So if you haven't seen this show, or if you, like me, also got kind of turned off by the first couple of episodes and was like, oh, this is just going to be weird, just sci-fi and action-y. Like, there's a lot of heart in this show, but you just got to give it a little bit of time so that you can actually establish some connections with characters.
Yeah, unlike our last TV show that we did, Friday Night Lights, I do feel like this one takes a little more warming up, and you gotta invest a little bit of yourself to get the investment payoff.
Yeah.
Because Friday Night Lights, I feel like they're always you're easily connected to all these characters right away.
Yes.
So this is a little bit different. I want to remind you
Me?
that on this very podcast, when we did our Friday Night Lights episode, which I looked back on the date, it was May 18th, 2020. You promised the listeners, you said, I promise you guys I will watch season 1 of Lost. And then if I don't like it, I don't have to watch any more of it. And I was
That's
like, yep,
true.
you're right.
That was the deal.
And so you had told listeners, you're like, I will watch season 1 within a year. And so you not only fulfilled your promise, but you also watched the entire show. And we're podcasting about it within a year.
You guys.
So I think you were outstanding, Rach. Huge kudos to you.
2020 was my year.
It wasn't many people's year, but Rach made the best of
Honestly, it was my year.
it. So, Rach, if you're going to give us a summary of Lost. And granted, folks, if you don't want to have spoilers, if you have not seen the show, this is a time to pause and to come return to us a few months down the line because there are going to be spoilers. We have to get into the ending. We have to talk about it. It's so controversial. We have to discuss our thoughts and opinions on everything. And so because of that, and some of the unsolved mysteries, too. I want to hit some of those and some of the dropped storylines that won't make sense unless we tell them what the real storylines were. So because of that issue, there are going to be a lot of spoilers. This is a spoiler-laden episode.
Yep.
Just like FNL was.
Yep.
So, y'all. Rach Poo, give us the summary.
Oh, boy. Okay. So there is a plane, and it crashes on an island, and there is a collection of passengers who kind of live out their days on this island, finding out that they are not on a normal island, and they are also not alone on said island. There are other people on the island. Some are scientists, some are people who have been there forever. It's a mix of like sci-fi and also fantasy.
Yep,
I think I think it's both. You know how sometimes we try to tease apart that? It kind of gets into like the supernatural, and kind of like religious, but then oh gosh, I already lost us. I'm sorry, guys.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's called Lost.
Oh.
Wow.
Whoa. It just hit me. That's what this show is called. Lost.
No. You didn't know you were watching, but that's great.
Yeah, I mean, so it's there, it's stuff. You're on an island, you're trying to get off the island, but you keep on finding, mechanical engines buried in the ground and whole homes on the island and a community. So it's weird. And there's some later seasons where we kind of jump back and forth between the island and back home, different realities, different time zones, periods, different time periods. So yeah, it's a wild, wild ride.
Yep. And sometimes you just got to hang on and you just got to let things resolve themselves because it's hard to, in the moment, to be like, do I like what's going on right now? And sometimes you just need to be like, don't think about it, just experience it. And then at the end, you can think about, did you like it or not?
Yeah.
Because there are some weird journeys that we go on. That sometimes I think start and I didn't like, but by the ending I liked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I would say on the other end there were things that I thought I liked and then I didn't like.
Sure.
So there are a lot of like holes here and there. Yep. So it's not without its trips.
For sure.
It tripped up in a couple of spots for me. But overall.
Now, I jumped into this show when it was on season 4. It's 2009. So I was senior year of undergrad.
How long was your hair?
I was Brad in Rocky Horror.
Very long.
I was doing all my sons. It wasn't that long.
Long sideburns.
Somewhat long sideburns. But I started watching this show on a recommendation from a fellow classmate. And she gave me all the discs. Her name is Erin Gallion. I don't know if she's listening, but she was a great friend. And she gave me all these discs. And I would stay up really late at night watching these till like 3 a.m. I'd like conquer like at least a disc a night, which is like 6 episodes. That's like, oh my gosh, probably like 4.5 hours.
Yeah, so listeners, what Ty's describing is how videos used to be watched in the olden days on DVDs.
Yep, this was not streamed, folks. This is not streamed. And then after those seasons, I got caught up. I had to watch the season by season for the last 2, and I'd get the discs from Netflix. Another thing, guys, Netflix used to be a service that you didn't just log on and instantly get the gratification of watching something. No, you had discs that came in the mail. And so you get these little presents in the mail. There were these little discs. And then when you were done, you'd put the disc back in, you'd send it off, and they'd send you the next one. And it was a somewhat horrifying process. But that's how we watched things. We thought it was great at the time.
It was great.
Because you didn't have to leave your house.
Anything you want, eventually.
It's right there.
At some point.
Yep, at some point. So that's how I watched these things. I did a lot of, this was back when I was playing guitar and trying to lift for the first time. So I was doing a lot of curls for the girls.
What a babe.
And I was playing guitar and I watched Lost. I was very cultured my senior year of college. I was like, so I'm going to go out at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to ponder what just happened to Desmond. And I'm going to go out in the backyard with Jack, our black lab. And I'm going to play guitar while everybody's sleeping. I'm going to go in the room. I'm going to lift curls for the girls because it's got Rocky Horror coming up.
Like a real Renaissance man.
Yeah, that was probably when I was my most well-rounded, I think. It really kind of hit my peak.
Oh, babe.
Yep. So, but I loved it. You're right. I totally was like, oh my gosh, because you find slices of yourself in a lot of people, not just in one character. You find yourself in a lot of people, so it's really fun to be like, oh my gosh, this moment right now, it reminds me of what's Charlie going through. Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh, Mr. Echo's happening to him. Oh my gosh.
Oh, I forgot about Mr. Echo. Oh.
Well, we're gonna talk about Mr. Echo.
Okay.
All right, so I want to give you a little bit of backstory about how all this came to be. And it's kind of a wild ride in and of itself.
Yeah. Did it start with an acid trip?
No, it did not.
Okay.
This show was pitched. So ABC used to hold these like big retreats where they would have like 10,000 people at these retreats. I kind of made up that number, but it was a lot of people. And there were like hundreds of people at these retreats, and they would pitch shows to different execs, and you would come with your storyboard and everything ready, and you just show everybody, here's what I'm thinking. And some execs would bite on things, some wouldn't. But it was just this retreat where the whole company kind of got together. Well, on this retreat, there was like a group of people who got together, and they were like, hey, we have this idea for this new show. And it was based on one of the guys had watched Castaway the night before, like in TV in the hotel room. And he was like, hey, what if we made like a TV show that's kind of like Castaway? And the Survivor, the TV show, was really popular at the time as well.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, Castaway, Survivor, there's got to be something to this that we could make a TV show based on it. So they had kind of brought up that idea, like Survivor meets Castaway. And so that was their general plan, like let's do this for a TV show. And the show started off at first to be like really serious, and it was going to be like really grounded in reality, and it was kind of weird. And the show, the original concept was, what if there were two brothers who get stranded on this island, and they're like Cain and Abel, and they each take control of like this little group of people, and one sets up in the island who's kind of like the bad boy of the group, who's like, I'm going to go into the heart of the island and set up this little fortress. And then another person's like on the beach, and he's the good brother, and he's like, no, I'm going to try to get everybody rescued and saved. So like you can see how those concepts kind of stayed in, but everything needed to be explained. And in fact, in the pitch, a guy had mentioned, that was part of the pitch team, he was like, yeah, and then there'll be this shark attack. And the execs immediately shot it down and were like, nope, shark attack, that's not realistic enough. It needs to be more grounded in reality. So think about some of the shit that happens in this show.
You know what? What if that shark was a polar bear?
Now we're on to something.
We're talking.
So the show kind of got stuck in pre-production and didn't really go anywhere.
Yep.
And it kind of just faltered for a little while. Well, then they decided, okay, we have this great idea. One of the execs really loved it. It's like, oh, it's actually the guy who does this last episode on Lost.
Yeah.
That's the exec.
Oh.
And he loved the show so much that he like fought for it, and he ended up getting fired because he loves it so much.
Oh.
He like greenlit it, and he greenlit Desperate Housewives, which they thought were going to be huge flops.
Oh my gosh.
And they ended up being huge success stories.
It was like ruled the 2000s.
Yeah, but when he greenlit them, right off the bat, the execs were like, that's a horrible choice. You're done. So he got fired for it. But anyways, that guy was like, I love this project. I love this Castaway meets Survivor concept. I need some people who are going to be able to pull this off. So he called in J.J. Abrams. Rach, how do you know J.J. Abrams?
I don't.
You don't? Okay, he's a
I do, but
writer,
I just trying to think
director.
of like what, off the top of my head, I can't think of what he writes.
He directed
Besides this.
the Star Trek movies and the Star Wars new collection,
The new
trilogy.
ones.
Not all three, but the 7th and 9th.
Got it.
And he did like Cloverfield.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he loves
very-
like monster horror mystery type of stuff, and that's kind of his bag. Super 8, that's one of his.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And
Super
so
8.
they brought him in because he was working on Alias at the time. So he's a huge name. He's like the main writer and producer and most of the time director of Alias. And they're like, we need JJ for this one. So they bring in JJ Abrams, and he just continues to like have his star be born. And JJ brought in this other dude whose name is Daveman Lindelof. Now this guy's going to stick with the show the whole time, so I'll kind of refer back to him a few times.
Okay.
But Lindelof only did the show because he loved J.J. Abrams and he wanted to impress him so he could be a writer on Alias. So that's the only reason he showed up.
That was his end game.
Yep. Lindelof was like, I just want to be on Alias. That's all I want. So they like went into
I don't care about
meetings.
this Lost show. Alias is where it's at.
Yep.
Putting my chips in that bag.
Absolutely. Which, have you ever seen Alias?
I've seen a couple of episodes.
It feels like a show you might like.
Yeah.
Strong female lead. spy, action,
Yeah.
women badass.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
It's like 24 for gals.
I don't know. I just don't have time. I just have no time.
So their idea on this show is what's called the iceberg effect, which is we're only going to show the audience the 20% of the iceberg that's above the water, but then there's 80% that's mystery. You know that with icebergs. Have you ever seen those posters in teacher's classroom? It's like 20% of his knowledge and 80% effort, and it's like the iceberg or whatever.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the analogy.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful poster.
Yep.
You got to get one of those for your classroom, for your office. So their original pitch was we're not going to do, because the studio hated science fiction at this time.
Oh.
They hated sci-fi. They hated fantasy.
Sure.
They thought they were niche audiences, that there's no way you can succeed with that. And so they're like, it's all going to be reality based, we promise. So they lied to the execs right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, it's all real. We're going to explain everything. Don't worry. It's all like, looks like it's a mystery. It looks like it might be more than it is. It's not X-Files. This is all grounded in reality.
All really happening.
Yep. So think
boy.
about that. Think about how any of that would work out.
So, okay.
Yeah, go for it. What's your question?
Well, I mean, was that just like in the pilot and like the early episodes that was the case? And do you know when they started to let their fantasy freak flag fly? Because I feel like you can kind of tell a little bit when it was like, oh yeah, we're actually going to get weird.
Well, they said instantaneously, because they said that they lied to the execs.
Yeah,
and
so
they
they had
knew
the
it was
plan.
going to be, but they wanted it to be so mysterious that they would never know in time to be like, hey, this is supposed to be reality.
What?
What's going on
Is
here?
that a monster? Is that a smoke monster?
So speaking of the smoke monster,
Smoke monster.
the initial idea was, here's what we're going to do. This whole series is going to be a series of short stories that take place on this island. First one is this plane crash. And within 6 episodes, we'll have explained the smoke monster and what that's all about. And we'll have debunked that whole claim. And then we will have either killed or solved or gotten them off the island, all the airplane crew. So everybody in the show will be off the island. And then we'll have a new group come in somehow, like shipwreck or whatever. Like there'll always be like some group, a new group of people that are explored on this island. That was their original concept.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because the whole charm of Lost is how connected you get to the characters.
It's the journey, yeah. I'm glad that that's not what ended up happening.
They also wanted to have guest stars. So they wanted there to be like famous celebs that come in for like a 4 or 6 story arc, and then would tackle like something about the island in these little arcs.
Yeah, I mean, they did have characters who were only in it for, half of a season or so, but none of them, I would say, would be like guest stars by any stretch.
Sure.
They were just, kind of no names, but also expendable to the island, which was kind of fun. Like, you couldn't always guess like what was going to happen or like who was going to maybe not live through that season. That's I think part of the fun mystery of it.
It had a little bit of a Game of Thrones quality to it, like nobody is safe type of thing. Like you had some major players die during the course of the TV show, and I have a whole section called "Why Did They Die?" So we're going to talk about the behind the scenes of why they got rid of every person.
Oh my gosh!
Yep. It's one of my favorite sections of this format, actually.
Yes!
So there was a rotating room of writers for this show, and people didn't stick around for very long. And so some of the cohesiveness, I think you could say, was maybe sacrificed because of that. There were moments where like a through line plot wasn't fully developed, or like mysteries got kind of left to fend for themselves.
Yep. Like, I want to know who wrote season 5. And they probably need to not do that anymore. Or they need to just do their own season standalone, which would be fine.
I'm going to tell you the justification for season 5.
Oh,
because I know it.
I can't wait to hear it.
Okay.
And rip it apart.
So Lindelof, the guy who with J.J. Abrams, they're kind of the main two that are associated with the project. He wanted everything to be explainable by the end. He's like, we can create as much mystery as we want, but everything needs to be explained by the finale. And J.J. Abrams was the exact opposite.
Really?
He was like, no. Let's present all these mysteries. Who cares if we tell them what they are? Like, it does not matter the answer to the mystery. All that matters is that they're wondering what is this mystery. We don't need to pay anything off. So he had this whole idea about the hatch right off the bat. He's like, this whole first season, let's put a hatch on the island. They're trying to get into the hatch. They're trying to break in. They blow it up. And then what's inside? Let's make it something that wasn't even worth it. It was just like a waste of time. And so there was like the polar bears. What if there's a polar bear habitat down there? What if there is a bunch of gold? What if there is a whole nother civilization down there like Atlantis? So he had like all these like weird concepts. Or he was like, or what if we blow it open and it's literally just a drop there's no bottom? And it's like, okay, well, there's another mystery that we'll never solve. So they had all these ideas just for the hatch.
I mean, it's the creativity that's amazing, right? That you could just like throw all those ideas.
You just vamp on the fly.
But I think what makes something like brilliant is when you can tie it up with a bow at the end of it. When a good mystery will come back and will come through and be like, remember this moment? This is what happened. Like I love at the end of a movie or a series or a book to say, oh my gosh.
So you're thinking like Game of Thrones Hodor.
Yeah, although
I'll
be honest, I don't know that I believe that that's a real thing. I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, you think Martin was just like
it was cool, but then I thought about it, I was like, I don't know. I don't think you did that well planning ahead, but maybe. It just takes him so long to write a book. I couldn't imagine him holding on to that like one little nugget.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Could
that's
be.
true. People are brilliant.
J.K. Rowling with all her stuff.
Yeah, again,
with
like
Harry Potter.
I would just be so interested to get into writers' heads and to know how much of it that they have planned out and how much of it is like, you know what, we'll just maybe if we get renewed for another season, I have a couple of tricks up my sleeve that I'm going to weave in some gems here.
Well, I've got some answers for you.
Yes!
They did not make up the whole story at the start.
Yeah, they didn't.
They did not.
No.
They knew a couple plot points. They knew where the polar bears came from. They actually had decided the polar bear plot from the start. But everything else, they were like, I don't know. We'll just like create it as we go. We'll build this world. We'll like create mysteries as we go. And then, like I said with JJ, he's like, we don't ever have to solve them. And then Lindelof's like, well, I'm going to eventually solve them. And so they did not know the whole story. So those folks out there who think that like the writers from the beginning like knew what was going to happen, that's not right. They did not know. They were actually going by the seat of their pants. In fact, some of the writers in interviews have said, we were trying to think of the craziest shit that could happen on this island. And then people would be like, well, how are we going to explain it? And we'd be like, who cares? We'll worry about that later. Right now, we're just in the business of creating crazy shit.
I mean, that just sounds like just so haphazard and so like, I mean, easy is not the right word, but like, you know, like if you're going to just throw stuff at the wall and be like, this would be crazy. It's like, what kind of art form is that?
Oh, it's crazy, babe.
I mean, it worked for them, thankfully, because someone came in and was like, let's just tie up a couple of these buttons.
Yep.
Maybe not all of them, but.
So they did know the idea about the island. They're like, the island is a place, they called it like the nexus of good versus evil. So like, this is going to be a center location where the battle of good versus evil plays out. And we see that from the beginning. I actually saw a clip. I was like watching like random clips from Lost, just like to get inspired to like all previous seasons. And I forgot about the moment where Locke and Walt are playing that game. I think they're playing backgammon, and there's a black stone and a white stone.
Yeah.
And then that totally ties in later in the series with like the black stone and the white stone and everything too.
See, so that's cool.
So they did do a little bit of like symmetry, I would say. I don't know if it was planning, but it's symmetry.
Yeah.
Which is nice. The writers have said over and over and over again, the island is not purgatory.
Well, that's fine. I mean, you can say it. But that doesn't mean that's not what I thought, like, halfway through the series.
Yeah, so is that where your mind was at? Were you thinking...
When I started to watch it, I kind of thought, like, it's got to be, you know, because you're trying to solve the mysteries that they're putting forward to you and trying to make sense of it, because someone needs to. And Purgatory made a lot of sense to me, just because there are so many visions of people who have passed on the island, and they seem lost on the island, so it's like... And then you're also wondering at the same time... Did everybody on the plane die? Are we already dead? And now we're just like waiting to see if we get into heaven or hell?
That is another thing that they are very adamant about. And I have some really close friends who still are like, no, they were all dead based on that last episode. The writers say, no, they were not dead. They were not dead. and they were not in purgatory. So they're very clear on like everything that happened on that island legitimately happened.
Yeah, it's not a figment of the imagination and a small boy with autism's eyes.
For sure. Execs, writers, everybody agrees. Like that is the case. Now they all die, and they kind of go over this in the finale. Here's a big spoiler for you. But like they all died at different times, and then they met up in this place at the very end of the show. But we'll get in and dissect that later.
Yeah.
But that they were not dead throughout the whole course of the show. Everything on the island legitimately took place.
Okay.
Jacob and the Man in Black, which is a huge thing, like when we get later on in the show. J.J. Abrams had no idea who Jacob was, and he was tentatively kind of with the show like through season 3. And he was like, I was in writers' rooms. I was like an exec on a lot of these things as a producer, and never ever brought up the Jacob or Man in Black. Like that was never discussed. So that is a late invention in the plot line.
I mean, that makes sense because I'm trying to think of when Jacob even gets introduced to it. It's probably not until...
Well, remember they're like, let's go see Jacob. Ben says that to Locke. And
Yeah,
there's like
but
a
that's,
shack
like,
with
well
a chair. I
into-
think it's probably at least season 4.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, that's about the time when you have to start to close it up and you're like, okay, let's put a couple of demigods on this island just to kind of like explain all of the weird stuff that's happening.
Yep. Now, not to jump too far ahead, but like those demigods, like those
I don't
random immortal kids, like so that we find out like their origin story that they were humans at one point and stuff like that. Part of me just wanted them to be not angels because that makes it too centralized on like Christianity, but like just like deities almost.
Yeah, I kind of thought we were going that route, and then there's a second to last episode, or maybe 3 to
Just a
last
few,
episode,
yeah.
where they like really get in and explain how they got there. And a part of me was like, that I don't need the explanation on that side of it. That's
Yep.
just a part of that.
I'm cool with just knowing
That's
these two.
religious
Like,
mystery, right?
Yep.
Like I can just, you tell me that person is an angel or whatever. I'm like, okay, I don't have to know how he became an angel. That's not what my brain needs help explaining. But yeah, it was interesting.
there were several different romances that were pandered about, and
Are we talking about on stage or off stage romance?
in the script.
Oh,
so
okay.
not off stage, but we'll talk about there was an off stage romance.
If someone just talk about it, I can't wait.
Okay, so they were trying to figure out like what characters to pair with each other,
Sure.
and I'm gonna go through casting and I'll talk about how the characters changed big time.
Yeah.
But one of the first primary relationships they were gonna build the show off of, the primary romance of the entire show. Do you want to guess which 2 characters it was?
Well, it's not going to be who I think it is.
It's not Jack and Kate.
Yeah, so Kate and Sawyer?
Nope. You're right about Sawyer.
Yeah?
Sawyer and someone else.
Sawyer and... Oh, gosh. I can't think of her name right now. What's the Australian chick's name?
Claire.
Claire.
Not Claire.
Not Crazy Claire.
No, not Crazy Claire.
What was the chick that passed away pretty early on?
Which one?
The bratty one.
Shannon.
Shannon.
That's right.
Shannon!
They were going to build the whole romance of the show on this plot between Sawyer and Shannon being your main love
Oh,
interest.
God. Not Shannon. Not Shannon.
Okay, so as we go through these people, and if you want to get into Shannon right now, you can. But like, let's talk about these characters and what you thought of them.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I said this several times as we were watching Shannon episodes. I think I even said like, "Oh, not a Shannon episode."
For sure.
She just annoyed me as a character. I mean, she just
the
is
worst.
pretty. I mean, her character is a kind of a spoiled 20-something who thinks she's really attractive, and is, but like
Kind of. She's not as hot as she thinks she is.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, she's just kind of lazy, and then at some point she has like a change of heart, and she's like mad that everyone just like thinks of her that way, and it's like, well, that's
You've been nothing but an asshole the whole
that's like
time.
literally your MO. What were you expecting? Yeah, and I don't know. She gets
And then
just gets
Saeed
this,
falls in love with
yeah,
her.
one of like my favorite characters at the time, early on, Saeed, like this really complex, dark history, like one of the coolest characters I think on the island, truly.
An Iraqi in a TV show after the 2002 Iraqi invasion.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that. We're 2 years removed when this show starts, and you get us to sympathize with an Iraqi in a TV show. Beautiful storytelling.
Yeah. And he falls for Shannon.
Yeah.
Not Shannon.
For sure. So, but I'm going to give you some details about Shannon. She was pretty successful after this show.
Well, I know her from a little hit I like to call Twilight.
You remember her from Twilight?
Yeah.
See, I don't know who she is in Twilight.
She's just one of the vampires.
She's one of the vampires? Good
Yeah.
good group or bad group?
Oh, crap.
Is she one of Edward's family?
I think she's one of Edward's family.
Oh, okay.
I think.
She's a little loser.
I can't think.
Yeah. Michael Giacchino. How do you know that name?
Whoa. What was that last name?
Michael Giacchino. I think I'm saying it right.
Giacchino.
Giacchino. Maybe it's that. I don't know.
He was in Goodfellas.
Nope.
Sorry, that was probably offensive.
He is the composer.
Oh.
You want to talk about the music at all?
Oh, my goodness. And it was something, too, that I didn't really realize it until, like, later seasons. Like, some of those instrumentals move me to tears.
For sure. When I hear them, they spark tears in my eyes. That's how good they are.
Yeah, definitely. Again, it's like anything, like the characters. Like you hear it out over time, and it just
and they're
like,
associated to certain characters
Yes,
too. A Sun and Jin moment's gonna have their like love theme, and
Love their song.
breaks you every time.
It does.
It's beautiful.
It truly does.
Yep.
Gorgeous music.
Mm-hmm.
Mwah.
So, any guesses on any other gorgeous music that he might have composed? Another song that maybe brings you to tears?
More songs that bring me to tears.
But it's from maybe an animated film?
Up.
Yep. He
Really?
did the music for Up.
Oh.
He did the Married Life song that you love so much.
No, really?
Yep.
I'm already crying thinking about that song.
Yeah. So he's just a talented dude.
Yeah.
He did The Incredibles. He's done almost every Abrams movie, like all the Star Trek and Star Wars movies and things like that. He composed music with airplane noises for season 1. So he got like real airplane noises to like insert in some of his like more actiony sequences and stuff like that. So it's kind of cool. It's pretty crazy.
A little genius.
Rach, can you do an impression of any of the music? Do you want to just like, it doesn't have to be exact.
I mean, my favorite
Just
sound effect is meow, but that's probably not him.
Yeah, no,
Did
it could
he do
be.
that, do you think?
It could be him.
I can't think of how the music goes right now.
Yeah.
Can you? You're nailing it. You're nailing it.
Hi, my name is Ty Hudson, and this is 32 bars of some random Lost songs.
Amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the casting. So let's talk about Jack Attack.
Yeah.
So Jack Shepherd.
Jack Shepherd, kind of our main protagonist eventually. Oh, not kind of off the bat, I
Kinda right off
suppose.
the bat.
Yeah. I mean, it opens on him, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah. Doctor, surgeon, back surgeon.
Opens with him on his back in the sand, opening his eyes with a panned up shot in the air.
Yeah.
Which is perfect symmetry for
That was lovely. I loved the full circle with that.
Yeah.
That was cool.
That was so cool. So yeah, Jack, the original concept for Jack was they were going to cast Michael Keaton,
Okay.
and Michael Keaton was only going to be in the first episode.
Oh my gosh.
So you're going to follow Jack around the entire episode as he's saving people just like he did. He seems like he's going to be your main character. And instead of the pilot getting killed by the smoke monster at the end of episode 1, the end of the episode was going to end with Jack getting killed by the smoke monster.
Oh my gosh. Well, here's the thing. You cannot kill off the doctor in any of it in Lost. If you want to keep having the crazy accidents and the battles that you're having and want people to live through them, you have to have somebody who we can believe without, a reasonable doubt that they can actually perform this surgery or can save this person's life or remove a bullet. Like, you can't get rid of a doctor.
Well,
you just can't.
Couple things had changed though. So number 1, your main protagonist. Do you know who it was going to be? If it wasn't going to be Jack?
Kate?
Kate.
Really?
Yep.
Oh,
they're going to have Kate for the main protagonist. But Jack, he was initially going to be a nurse. He's not a surgeon. So he's going to be running around helping people. And they wanted to set up this unpredictable world, like anybody can get killed.
Yeah.
And that anything can happen. Well, when Michael Keaton heard that they were not going to kill him off because the exec said, like, this is terrible. We have this multiracial cast, and that's awesome. We have all these underrepresented communities that are on the screen, but we need to have a central white male
Oh, I'm sure.
be
I'm
our
sure
be
that's
our
what they
protagonist
said.
because otherwise we're gonna lose an audience.
Yeah.
And so the execs fought to keep Jack and make him the central part of the show. Well, when Keaton found out, he was like, yeah, I only wanted to do one episode. I'm not here to be on a whole season or like multiple seasons of this show.
Yeah.
So he dropped out of the project at that point.
Gotcha.
Yep. So another individual that auditioned for Jack, though, who was not quite yet a star, was John Hamm.
John Hamm.
John Hamm from he hadn't done Mad Men yet.
Sure.
He auditioned and he was in strong consideration for Jack, but they went with Matthew Fox, who was in Party of Five?
Yeah.
Is that the show? Have you ever seen that show?
No, I haven't. Not really, no. I just know he's in it.
So Matthew Fox, that was like his big claim to fame at the time. And they decided to go with him. They cast him 10 days before shooting started. So he had to get ready to rock right away.
How stressed? Excited, but stressed out would you be?
Here's why I would be stressed. Because I just got cast to be in a show that takes place on a beach in an island, and I know my shirt's coming off, and I will not feel like I'm there yet. I'd be like,
I'm not
you
ready.
can't even give me 2 months to get in island shape right now. And you see that out of Jack. Like Matthew Fox gets in really good shape by the end of the show.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But at the beginning, he's kind of a little pudgy.
Well, you know what? And maybe that's okay from a storytelling standpoint. Maybe we don't arrive to the island with six-pack tan abs. Maybe, like, the island gives us that.
He also, I don't know if you noticed this, the beginning of the show, he's, like, very fuzzy when he takes his shirt off. And at the end of the show, he's, like, baby smooth.
Yeah. The island does that to you. Did they not explain that? That's one of the mysteries of the island. You lose all your body hair.
Another thing that happens, and I pointed this out to you with Miles, who's a later character, everybody's hairlines get better.
Yes, yep. The bald spots go away. The recedingness comes back.
But in the first season, there are, like, even with Jack has, like, a stronger receding hairline, but he has beautiful hair by the end of the show. Miles comes in, he's got a bald spot in the back, and then he's got a big receding hairline, and by the end of the show, he's got a really nice head of hair. Everybody's hairlines got better.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's the island.
The island does it to you.
Wills it.
It fixes Locke's legs, and it gives you great heads of hair.
These are all focused on men. What do the women get out of this?
I don't know. The women get in great shape. They get great tans.
Do they, though? Sun never got tan.
No, but she's so pretty.
She's got, like, the most beautiful skin I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like pearl. She's like,
This is creepy. Let's stop talking about her skin.
So Matthew Fox, though, after the show, he is in, I'm going to go into like the afterwards too, so we just focus on one character.
Okay.
He's in World War Z, We Are Marshall, which is about like when the football team gets in the plane crash. He's one of the assistant coaches. And then he's in this movie Vantage Point with Dennis Quaid. I watched that movie thinking like, oh, it's got Matthew Fox. This is going to be his big breakthrough.
Yeah.
Like it was right after Lost, or maybe it was towards the end of Lost. And the movie is awful. And Matthew Fox is terrible in it.
Oh, no.
He's so bad, and I think it seriously, like, hamstrung his whole career. Like, that was his first big opportunity. He plays kind of the villain, and he's almost, like, comically bad in it.
He's a villain in it?
Yeah, he's like the villain. He's like a secret agent guy with Dennis Quaid, and then he turns evil at the end. And he, like, when he delivers his monologues, it's like this, like, I'm the villain now.
Oh, dear.
It's really terrible.
He does not sound like he was set up to be successful.
No, I don't think so.
That's not his type.
I think... How do you feel about his acting?
I thought he was great in this.
I think he's really strong.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a lot of, intense scenes that he has to do, and he's got I would imagine has to get there fast.
Yep.
From a filming standpoint, so I was impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you? Where were you? Where the hell were you, you son of a bitch? What did you do to her? What did you do? Where were you? You just left him to die! You lied to me! Where were you?
He also, this is the thing that kind of kills his career. In 2012, he gets a DUI.
Ooh,
and you're going to see that. That's a common thread with this cast. Lots of DUIs.
Is the cast cursed?
Maybe.
Oh, cool.
The island drives them to drink.
Very cool.
Not the island water.
All right.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about Kate. We already mentioned Kate was going to be the main character when Jack was going to die.
Yeah.
So they ended up giving Kate, switched her storyline and Rosemary's around the old black woman. Like her story like gets changed with other characters and stuff to try to make this new character when they keep Jack. It's kind of a confusing thing. But Evangeline Lilly, she got cast by sending a tape from Vancouver. So she's up in Canada. She just sends a tape off, and she was an unknown. She'd only done a commercial at this time. They watched the tape, and they're like, there she is. There's our Kate. We got her.
I mean, she is so talented as well, but like
her freckles bounce off the screen.
Who does that work for though? Like who sends us a tape and is like, there you go, that's your shot.
Ty
That's
Hudson
incredible.
for Ren McCormick at Minnesota State Mankato as a guest artist.
Oh snap!
That's the only time it's worked out for me.
Well, it did work out.
It did work at that point.
And here we are, all these years later.
So some of the things Evangeline Lilly goes on to do, she's probably the most famous out of the cast going forward.
Yep.
I mean, she was in The Hobbit.
Yeah.
She's hot as an elf, but I think it's just a whatever character.
Sure.
And then she's in Ant-Man, where she's a badass.
Yep.
And her and Paul Rudd's so cute.
That is a good couple.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then she made appearances on Ty's top 5 list for several years following this TV show.
Very important list.
Yeah, very important. And kind of a fun fact. So, you know how Kate's always like climbing trees a lot?
Yeah, she is climbing trees a
like,
lot.
Hey, I'll go take this radar system up at the top of this tree, or hey, I'll wake up from another like skip through time and on a tree. Yep. This was all because Evangeline Lilly, actually herself, loves to climb trees. She's a good tree climber and she loves to do it. And so the writers always wrote these scenes in. They're like, hey, Lily, you're going to go up into that tree again. Okay, cool.
That's awesome.
Yep. Now, with Evangeline Lilly, we have to get into this.
Already?
I think that you look kind of like her. And I would do this thing when we watch the show where I would look at her and then I look at Rach and then I look at her and then I would look at Rach again and she'd always go, stop it. We don't look anything alike.
Oh, I think you like to find me in a little bit of all of your crushes. I don't know if that like gives you solace at night or something, but it's like, she kind of looks like Rach.
Well, she does.
Like,
you guys have similar mouths, similar eyes,
That's it.
Similar nose, similar freckles. The only thing that's different is your head shape.
Gosh, you are like... It's a little creepy how much you're describing my facial features.
Yeah.
It's like...
Well, they're similar.
It's sweet. It's sweet, I should say.
Good. I'm glad you take it from a sweet perspective.
I do.
And not that I like put both your pictures up on a wall and then I decipher, like manipulate both your photos so you guys look exactly alike.
Yeah, I found that, by the way. I thought that kind of creeped me out a little bit.
Oh,
so
yeah?
I threw that away.
Oh, okay. Dang.
Your shrine to us.
I'll make a new shrine to you too. So Yeonjun Kim, and she played Sun. Mm-hmm. She actually auditioned for Kate.
Oh, yeah.
And she was in strong consideration. Mm-hmm. They ended up going with Evangeline Lilly because they thought she just was so perfect. Mm-hmm. But the characters of Sun and Jin were supposed to be like an elderly Japanese couple.
Oh.
And when they saw her, they were like, okay, we can't use her for Kate. Or we could, but we're not going to. But we love her. She's awesome. She was like a bikini model before this. Like a Korean bikini model.
I could see that.
And because she was Korean, they're like, we'll make the characters Korean. She's so stunning and she's so awesome. We're going to cast her and we're going to make the Sun and Jin character now Korean and obviously bring down the age and stuff. And then they're like, well, we got to find a Jin for her, right? And she, a little bit about her after the show. She's on the show Mistresses. Have you ever heard of that show?
Nope.
I think it came out like 2014, 2016. It's with Alyssa Milano.
On like ABC or
that's
something?
That's a good question that I don't know the answer to.
Yeah,
And then she does like several Korean shows and stuff too after this.
Okay.
I kind of think it's funny that she's a bikini model because Jin spends like the whole first season trying to get her to cover up all the time.
Yeah. It's hard. They have such an arc as a couple, but I will say like in the era that we're in, that the beginning relationship, you know, the emotional and a little bit even like physical abuse is it's a little hard to be like, okay, yeah, but we love you guys together. You should stay with each other. So
yeah, because you really don't root for them to be together.
No,
for
not
the whole
at all.
first season, really.
Yeah, not at all. In fact, you're like, girl, leave him.
Yep.
Leave him. He's controlling and crazy. Yeah, but I think that's one of those things that if it were made today, I think they would find a different way to get at that without being so abusive.
Yep.
They just want to,
sure.
you want to keep that message on par.
And what's interesting is Daniel Day Kim, who plays Jin, he almost didn't accept the role because of that exact thing that you just said.
Really?
He said
Yeah.
the role's stereotypically Asian, like, I'm very protective of not going to let my wife be herself, and I'm going to be overbearing and controlling, and
Yeah.
I'm, like, angry and, like, want to separate myself from other people.
Yeah.
It's like, I just have seen that too much in American culture, that's how
Yeah.
Asians are represented on screen and on stage. And he goes, I don't want to do it. And so the producers, when they called him, and he had told them that, they're like, okay, here's what you need to know, Daniel. We can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but our plans for you are not to stay that way. Our plans are to show an evolution where you change. And he was convinced enough that he was like, okay,
Yeah.
I will do it then.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like they're my couple. At the end of this show,
Oh.
I love, the will they won't they with Jack and Kate, but I mean, Sun and Jin, like their last their
Heartbreaking.
scenes together, like, oh, those are the ones that pull at the heartstrings
Yep.
for me.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. I say heartbreaking, but it's also like just mind-numbingly
Yeah.
beautiful interactions that are happening. After Lost, he is in Hawaii Five-0.
Yep.
It's his next show.
I have seen him
And
before.
he's a strong supporting character in that show too. And then he's actually in the movies Divergent and Hellboy.
Oh.
Yeah,
Huh.
which is kind of surprising.
Yeah, I'd have to, now that
We watched Divergent
I did, but I didn't know.
when she was having sex with all her scene partners. What's her name?
Yeah.
Who's now engaged to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, apparently this is, I don't know where I heard this
We heard it on E! News.
It was a reputable
it was on
source,
an actual,
I believe, but
it was in.
you guys, side note, tangent, Shea Woodley actually technically has sex with her coworkers if there is a sex scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they have to be consenting, obviously, so maybe that's not all of the time, but that is her MO. That's her preference, is to like have it be
Let's
as
really
real as
do it.
possible. So, just,
So
I
if
don't
you
know.
book work with her, just be aware of that.
Watching Fault in Our Stars, you might need to rate that like maybe rated R,
Yep,
maybe
because
rated
they're
NC-17.
really doing it right now.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
maybe. I don't know if that was one, but we're going to assume. Okay, back on track.
Yep. Let's go to Jorge Garcia. He plays Hurley.
Yeah.
So Jorge did not read for Hurley. Do you want to guess what character he read for?
Locke.
Nope. He read
Michael?
nope for Sawyer.
Oh, yeah?
So the guy who played Hurley initially read for Sawyer, and when they watched him read, they created the character of Hurley after seeing his audition.
Oh.
They're like, this guy's perfect. We got to use him. J.J. Abrams said, I think I'd seen him in a TV show play a drug dealer right the night before his audition.
Oh,
like by
really?
happenstance. I was
Oh,
like, oh my gosh, I
interesting.
just saw you on TV last night. And then was like, yeah, we gotta create something for this guy.
Yeah, the character of Hurley is so nice from just like keeping it light at times because it can get so heavy. I think he definitely infuses that character. I'm glad that they created some lightness in it so that it can be funny too. It doesn't have to all be serious.
Well, and I should clarify. So there was a Hurley though.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but just was nothing like what it was after
Sure.
he read. The original Hurley was a 50-year-old white Republican who loves guns, who's like a gun-toting NRA member. That was his whole characterization in the
okay.
character spots and stuff. And so then they changed him big time for Hurley.
Yeah.
So pretty much made a new character. And since the show, Hurley has been in, he was in How I Met Your Mother in an episode, which is really funny because he's doing like the 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. And then he was in like a bunch of other TV shows, and he's in one of those really terrible Adam Sandler Netflix movies that just came out recently.
Okay.
Adam Sandler had that deal with Netflix to like make the shittiest movies possible for like really cheap. He was in one of those.
He's living his best life.
But speaking of Sawyer though, there was a different Sawyer to start with. And it was somebody really famous. And it's somebody you would never expect to play the role of Sawyer.
Oh.
Kind of goes along with maybe why Hurley auditioned for the role.
Tell me.
No, go ahead. You want to guess?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't want to guess. Tell me.
Forrest Whitaker
Oh.
was the original Sawyer.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
he dropped out during pre-production because he wanted to direct his own movie. And actually, that movie was starring Michael Keaton, so they kind of dropped out around the same time.
Good for them.
And,
Good for them.
So Sawyer was originally an older gentleman from the Northeast. He was a con man. So he's like from New York, and he was going to be way different. And Josh Holloway, who ends up playing Sawyer, he came in to read for the part, and he was trying to hide. He's a Georgian. He's trying to hide his Southern drawl. He was like, oh, God, this guy's supposed to be from New York. So he's trying his best to hide the Southern. And the people who are watching him to audition, they're like, hey, you know this character's not Southern, right? He's like, yeah, I know. I just keep slipping into it. And finally they just say, like, just let it go. Just let us hear you. And so he started to, like, talk in a Southern accent. And they're like, yeah, we're going to change the whole character for him.
You know what? We're making this up as we go.
Yeah. We don't even know. This show's not even going to.
Really
we don't even know where you're all going to be dead in 6 episodes anyway. So we're going to have a new crop going in. Yeah, you
exactly.
can be Southern.
Sure, why not? Make him Southern.
And he was just about to quit acting because he had been rejected from the soap opera Passions.
Passions.
So he came in to read for Passions. And it didn't go well. He makes fun of it. He's like, this show had a puppet and a dragon and a witch. It was the worst show ever devised on television, and I couldn't even get cast in this show. He's like, I knew it wasn't for me at that point. And they told him in that audition, they're like, your hair is kind of disgusting, and you need to do something with it.
Oh.
So they were really mean about his hair, too.
Whoa.
And so he's like, forget about it. I'm just not going to act anymore. And then this was like one of the final things. He had gotten his real estate license a few days before this audition.
Okay.
And he's like, well, I'll go to this last audition, but this is one of my last ones. I'm pretty much wrapping it up. And then he scored the gig.
Well,
So
there
it's
you
one of
have
those
it.
stories, which always makes me wonder, if I just am like, hey, Guthrie, this is my last audition. I'm pretty much hanging out the towel after this one. So hopefully we can make something happen here. You guys need a Bob Cratchit or something for your Christmas Carol.
Last one.
This is my last one.
call.
So no.
Make sure. No one's looking for me, huh?
Oh, okay. Chilton Theater Company. This is my last call. I don't know if you heard from the Guthrie. But... so he has since went on. He was in Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
I think I remember seeing him in that.
Yeah, you didn't fall asleep at that one?
Did I fall asleep in that one?
I don't know. You fell asleep during one Mission Impossible movie at the drive-in movie theater.
Let's clarify. What time did the Mission Impossible movie start?
Right around midnight.
Was it midnight?
Yeah.
Or was it the last one?
No.
Isn't there?
Nope, it was the second one.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nice try.
I was tired.
And granted, you only fell asleep for just a tiny bit. And you like woke up. You're like, oh, I think I just nodded off. This is one of those things I made fun of my buddies Johnny and Paul. I was like, Rach fell asleep during Mission Impossible. You think that movie's so good?
I mean, to be fair, like, I'm gonna drive in my car. It's
It's so fun. I love that.
cozy. It's like I had some snacks. I'm a little sleepy.
Terry O'Quinn, he's the guy who played Locke. He didn't even audition.
What?
So Terry O'Quinn was in Alias before this with
Okay.
J.J. Abrams.
Got it.
And while he was on the set of Alias, Jennifer Gardner had a ton of power. And she's like, I love this guy. We've got to make him a regular. Like he was on like 2 seasons pretty consistently. And she's like, I think we need to make him a regular. And regular is a huge pay bump. And the exec said, nope. We're not going to pay him that kind of money. We don't see long-term viability in marketing him. We're not going to pay him. And so when that happened, he was crushed. And J.J. Abrams, who was directing Alias, went to him and was like, hey, I know I can't do anything about this now, but somewhere down the line, I promise you, I'm going to take care of you. There's going to be something that comes up that I'm going to take care of you. So then when this popped up, he's like, hey, it's not Alias again, but let's do Lost together. So
Wow,
kind of cool.
that's really cool. That's a great story.
And interesting fact, Terry O'Quinn went on to be in Hawaii Five-0 with Jin.
Also,
Yeah. They kept hanging out. And he was in a lot of other random TV shows and stuff. He's actually done quite a bit.
another island drama,
Yep.
also maybe filmed in Hawaii.
Yep, I bet it was. Dominic Monaghan, he is Charlie.
Okay.
How did you know him from what else?
Lord of the Rings.
Yep, he plays Mary. And he received the offer to join the Lost cast the day after the Oscars when Return of the King swept the awards and
Oh
won
my
a
gosh.
shit ton of awards.
Ooh.
He got the call from his agent the next day.
Yeah.
Saying hey, you want to do this Lost project? And he's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but do you know who I am now? I have an Oscar, maybe?
Yeah, and he did
Kind of adjacent Oscars?
He did some movies and stuff too on the side. The only thing he's done a lot of random TV, and he was in this show called Flash Forward. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, the old show, Flash Forward?
Well, I think there must have been a redo because it was in the it was in 2010-ish.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm thinking of a different one that was maybe from the late 90s.
Okay. But he was in that show, which is all about time travel. Well, maybe it was that one. Maybe it was before Lost. I don't know. I don't have a date written down. So it could have been. He maybe just did 2 sci-fi shows. But since then he was in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
He plays this random little character named Beaumont. I didn't remember until I looked up pictures, and I was like, oh, I guess he looks kind of familiar.
Yeah,
He's like on the good guy squad.
I'm gonna have to see him in costume.
Yeah. Naveen Andrews, he plays Saeed. He was by all accounts a very dignified Englishman.
Mm-hmm.
So he was very composed on set, very like gentlemanly on set,
Mm-hmm.
which is funny because Iraqi soldier who tortures people and stuff, who is kind of very gritty.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life, I guess he was very mannered
Posh.
and polite and stuff. He's been in some Netflix shows and some random TV. He actually in real life got really close with Shannon.
Not Shannon.
They became super good buddies.
Oh, Shannon.
Now, Shannon must have been cool, though, because Shannon was in a lot of stuff. She was in Taken.
Oh, yeah.
She's in The Fog. Do you
Is she
remember
the
that?
daughter in Taken?
I think so.
I think she's the daughter in Taken.
And there's this movie called The Fog that came out with the guy from Smallville.
Uh-huh.
And it's about it's a remake where ghost pirates come out of this fog. It's stupid.
Ooh,
it's horror.
spooky.
No, it's not spooky at all. And so she was in that terrible movie.
Okay.
She was in Twilight. She's in Fear the Walking Dead, the new TV show that's like a spin-off of The Walking Dead.
Oh, okay.
And so she's been in a ton of stuff.
She's been busy.
Yeah,
She's
so she
hustling.
must be liked, even though she was so annoying in the show.
I mean, she played annoying well, and that was her character.
Yeah.
So, bravo, Shannon.
So Claire, who's played Emily de Ravin, she was in Brick. Do you
Really?
remember her in Brick?
Nope.
With Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
I do not.
She plays his girlfriend.
Really?
She's the girl he's trying to track down who calls him and is like, hey, something's going on. He's
Weird.
addicted to heroin and stuff. Like the main girl.
Now
of
I
this
want to
movie.
rewatch that.
Oh, Brick is a cool movie.
Yeah, that's a great
Yeah, we're talking
movie.
really fast. What's going on right now? What's happening? Remember how fast he talks?
No, I
Oh,
don't.
yeah, it's
It's
wild.
been way too long.
She's also in Hills Have Eyes.
Oh,
And she's in the
yeah.
really gross scene where
Yeah.
she's not pregnant, but her sister, I think, is pregnant. And she and her pregnant sister get raped in the movie. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Oh, it sounds awful.
Yeah, it's really
terrible
hard to watch.
filmmaking. Gross.
Yep. So
Sorry.
she's in that. And then she's in this movie, which I feel like maybe you saw, but I've never even heard of it. It's called Remember Me.
Can you say more about
Yep.
it?
It came out, I think, in 2010 or 2012. And it has Robert Pattinson in it. And she plays his love interest. And Robert Pattinson has an estranged relationship with his father, Pierce Brosnan. And she helps him break out of his funk and see the light again. And it just feels like a movie
Yeah.
that you saw in the Red Box and you're like, oh, I'll check this out.
Yeah, I'll be honest. You hit the nail on the head. I think if I did see it, that's where it would be, but I can't remember.
Well-
Or I remember thinking oh, I'll rent that at some point, but maybe I never got to it.
Mm.
Yeah, I can picture bits of it, but not, I don't know if that's just a preview that I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, so she was in that movie as well.
Oh, okay.
And then just a few others. Ben, the guy who plays Ben, he was on Persons of Interest with Jim Caviezel. Have you ever heard of that show?
Mm-mm.
So it came out around 2010-ish, and it was written by one of the Nolans. It's
Oh.
supposedly really good. I had a friend just recommend it to me. He's like, dude, you gotta watch it. You love Jim Caviezel? You'd freaking love this show. And then he was in Arrow, too, the superhero TV show. Walt.
Hold on, I'm not done talking about Ben yet.
Okay.
Ben, I mean, he has a face and a look that is so villainous. I don't know what else he could be cast as. I'd have to see him in other things.
I don't think he's a villain in the show with Jim Caviezel. I think they're both investigators.
I mean, maybe smart, nerdy
Yeah.
character, but boy, yeah, he is interesting. And I really enjoyed the character of Ben. I thought that was a crazy, he always kept you guessing.
Yep.
You never quite knew if he was going to snap, and he usually did. So I have to say about Ben.
Yep. He's interesting, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Walt is part of a pop rap duo named MKTO.
Walt is maybe 9 when they start filming this.
Yeah, but by the end, he's
a young man.
16 years old. And he's been in other TV shows and stuff too. Desmond was on Scandal. That was his big thing after this. He's a recurring character on Scandal
Okay.
with Kerry Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Boone. How do you know Boone?
How do I know Boone? Is he on Pretty Little Liars or
No,
something?
you're close though.
Is he
Another
on,
teeny bopper show, but think.
True Blood?
Nope, not True Blood. Try the other one.
Let's see.
CW though. CW True Blood.
I don't know. I don't watch any of them. I don't watch them.
Do you like these little hisses? Are they helping you?
No, they're not helping. I know
He's
you're a
on Vampire Diaries.
Vampire Diaries. Oh my gosh. See, that was like right after I stopped watching CW and Teeny Bopper stuff. I kind of like outgrew it at that point. So that whole genre is like, I don't know what any of that is about other than to make fun of it.
And Michelle Rodriguez, what has she been in?
Fast and the Furious.
Yeah, girl.
Like all of them.
Yep. And then she's in Machete and Avatar as well.
Oh, yeah.
Baby Aaron. Let's talk about casting of Baby Aaron. Just like Friday Night Lights, we talked about the ugly baby. And what's her name?
Gracie Bell.
Gracie Bell.
Gracie Bell.
Baby Aaron.
Yeah.
In season 4 alone, they counted, was played by 14 different babies.
What?
There are very strict child labor laws when it deals with babies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They had to
on an island outside.
Yep, they don't want to make them travel, so there's a lot of things with different locations.
Okay.
But yeah, they use 14 baby Aarons.
Wow.
And they actually, this is a guesstimate, but producers say that were on the show for a long period of time. They guess that this many baby Aarons was around. Do you want to take a guess? What number?
What?
How many baby Aarons do you think they used over the course of the whole show? I said that really funky.
Oh, because they use
14 in season 4. How many throughout the whole show?
Oh my gosh. Does this include like when Aaron like grows up and he's like a toddler?
No, baby, only baby Aarons.
Only babies?
I think so. Well, maybe toddler Aaron too. I don't know. I don't think so though.
30?
More.
50?
More.
No. What?
76. That was their estimate. They're like, going through the show, I think we used 76 of them. Jesus.
That just like goes to show how much babies look alike at a certain age. Like obviously within like the certain race or whatever. But like that's incredible that many babies got used and no one was like, this one's got this like funky little mole here. Or this one's got like really dark blue eyes.
Baby Aarons were almost all girls.
Oh, really?
Why do you think they were girls? Any guesses?
Because girls are better at acting.
I mean, somewhat, yeah, because the boys are usually really finicky, and the girls are better at being calm.
They're
and
fussy.
Yep. But another thing, girls have rounder faces.
Oh.
They have rounder faces
they?
than boys when
a
they're
little
babies.
Plumper, a little cuter.
Yep. And so it just like played really well, like this little round baby face. So they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna mostly go with girls for this.
Oh, funny. Well, Aaron is kind of like one of those names that can swing both ways. So,
For sure.
even though Aaron was a he.
All right. You want to talk about some deaths?
Oh, gosh. We're just talking about babies. Now we're going to death. Yeah.
Birth and death, baby.
Great.
It goes together.
Good segues.
Yep.
I love it.
So let's talk about Michelle Rodriguez.
Yes.
Ana Lucia.
She
got killed because she did not want to work on the show for more than a year. She told him at the beginning, she's like, hey, I only want to do this for a year, and I want you to get me out of here. Like, I'll be a short-term member of this cast. And she also got a DUI right around the time when they were going to get rid of her. And so there's, like, debating rumors where, like, some people say, like, it was the DUI, while others say, like, no, this was the plan all along. Like, she had this written into her contract. So we think that she actually had it written into her contract, and that's the real story.
Yeah.
But the DUI is very, like, close to it. It's a little curious.
And, that Fast Furious money was coming in. And
hot.
Like, yeah. I mean, you can't turn that down.
No.
What a place in your career to be like, you know what? I know this is a hit show. I really only want to do one season of it. So
wouldn't that be awesome?
I just like
that'd be the freaking best.
I only want to film like in Hawaii for like 1 year and then we're just gonna call it good. Cool.
Is that cool with you guys? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Libby, who dies at the same time as Ana Lucia.
Yeah.
Libby got a DUI 15 minutes after Michelle Rodriguez got a DUI in real life. Not together. The same night, 15 minutes apart. They each got DUIs.
Cursed.
I couldn't find out if they were at the same party or not.
Curse.
But they each got DUIs. And the studio says they killed her off, though, because they no longer had any interesting stories to tell with Libby. Which part of me feels like, you were just getting going on the Hugo and Libby's getting together story, and you hadn't talked about why she was insane. You had a lot to talk about Libby.
Yeah. To me, there's something else there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know that she was as dispensable as they made her. I think at some point she was a good death, but like it seemed a bit early because we like just met both of them, So.
Yep. Mr. Echo.
Yes.
The
Mr.
creators
Echo.
wanted Mr. Echo to be a long-term cast member that lasted almost to the end. Mm-hmm. They were like, he's probably not going to make it all the way to the end, but at least season 5 is their plan. Mm-hmm. And they had major storylines. Like a lot of the stuff that happens to Locke after Echo's death was originally intended for Echo. They had storyboarded these plans to have him go through this journey, the spiritual journey. Mm-hmm. But then afterwards, they're like, okay, we'll just move all that to Locke and kind of enhance his story. So Echo died because the actor wanted to leave Hawaii. He did not like Hawaii.
Aww.
He's from England originally. He didn't like doing the show very much. And he told them at the end of season 2, after he was initially cast to be one of the tailies, one of the tail crew.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Like,
I forget, like, most people don't know what
those?
the tailies mean.
Yep.
The people who were on the tail section of the plane when it broke off. And he said, I don't really like this. I want it to be written out of the show. And they were like, can you please give us like a few more episodes into season 3 at least, so we can work like with you for like 6 more episodes? And so he said yes. But he was actually in talks to be Black Panther.
Oh, no way.
So the initial idea, this was back before Marvel was cool. So I want you to take you to a time when we were doing the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, when Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man hadn't really come out yet, or it was really early in that timeline. This was before Marvel was cool.
Got it.
Their idea was to make him Black Panther back when those like early movies were going on. So
interesting.
Yep.
Because we haven't, seen him really in anything since, right?
I mean, he's been in some stuff. He was, he's like in an action movie. I can't remember what it was now, but he was in a few movies and stuff after this too. They killed Boone off.
Yeah.
Because
Vampire Diaries?
Not because he got in Vampire Diaries. He actually got kicked off and then he won the Vampire Diaries role. They killed him off because he complained a lot about like his role. And he wanted more screen time. He wanted to have more of a say in like where the plot was going and stuff. And he could just tell that they were not interested in his acting. Like they thought that he was doing a poor job with the character and his character wasn't interesting at all.
Yeah.
And so they decided, no, we're just going to get rid of you. Like if you want more screen time, here, we'll just kill you off.
We'll give you a big old death.
You can go and you can get more screen time somewhere else, was their response.
Yeah.
And he even says that he took himself way too seriously during this.
Well, that's
TV
good. I'm
show.
glad he can self-reflect on that, because it does sound kind of like, oh, poor pretty boy. Like, oh, you think that you deserve to be the main star because you have pretty blue eyes. But actually, there's more to it than that. And it's interesting. I know we're going to get at like who was all in and who was all not in the last scene when everyone's all together.
Yep.
But like how much we devoted to Mr. Echo and his background story, and he's not there, but Boone's there. Like, I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know.
No. And
we can continue.
For sure.
And maybe it's the tailies versus the people in the front, even though there's, I don't know. We don't have to get into it.
Sure. No, we'll talk about it. I can just talk to you about it right now. So the reason why you only saw some people in the last sequence and not others is because some people weren't available. They were filming other things.
Sure.
They actually tried to get everybody pretty much back.
Oh, okay.
And so the people that you didn't see, it was because they were off doing other projects. So like how Michael and Walt aren't there, that's the reasoning. It's not because they were slighted. It was because they were doing a different project and
Walt
they couldn't
was
free
rapping
up.
in his
He was rapping with
group
MKCO. And, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening.
Okay, I got you.
So they actually did want everybody
Well, I
there.
feel better about it then.
Now Shannon.
Not Shannon.
Shannon got killed because she was a little botched backstage and got in a lot of fights with the producers.
Again, pretty girl and pretty, like, they kind of like fed into like their characters. Both of their characters were brats on written wise. So I mean, was it acting? Is that just like really easy for you to come by? I don't know.
Yeah, producers just got fed up with her and were like, we're gonna kill her off.
We're gonna make Saeed fall in with her, and then we're gonna shoot her.
Yep. Now Charlie knew about they didn't know whether they're going to kill Charlie or not when Desmond started seeing Charlie's death, in the show. I think that's season 3.
Yes.
And he starts having these visions of Charlie's death. And the producers didn't, and the writers didn't know whether they were going to actually follow through with that or not, or they're going to find a way to break it, Final Destination
mystery
style.
Yep, I got you.
And Charlie was left like hanging. He didn't know what was going to happen. He's like, am I going to die or am I going to live? Like, what's my future with this show like? Ooh. And they kept him stringing along while they were filming into season 3 pretty late.
Yeah.
And then finally they decided, you know what? we're going to kill you off. And he was super annoyed because he actually had to give up a bunch of work.
Oh,
he was getting
sure.
offers for other things.
I'm sure.
And he had to let it go because he didn't know whether he was on hold for Lost or not. And so they kind of just strung him along. And so he's a little bit bitter about it.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, to be used like that and say, like, hey, just let me know so I can move on.
He
like,
did
I'll
say
stay, but...
He was kind of relieved when he got killed off, though. He said it was time for him to go. He felt like he was ready.
Well, yeah, just in time before you get to crazy season 5. Yeah, I would die before then, too.
Yeah.
And then come back as a ghost later. I'd be all right with that.
So those are the majority of the death stories.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about like filming and especially the very beginning filming process. So I read a lot about like what those first few days were like. So when they first filmed the pilot, those flashbacks that like become so integral in like the plot telling device of the story, like let's go off the island and tell characters' backstories. They were only supposed to be for the pilot episode, and that was it.
Oh, really?
Yep.
All the flashbacks? They weren't
To the
gonna
airplane.
like this is who they are, not because those are I think what makes it such an interesting show is that you know, right when you're getting kind of sick of like seeing people have to survive by eating coconuts, it's like, hey, let's flash back to like 10 years ago when they're meeting on their first date for the first, you know, they're falling in love and it's normal family drama. Like I thought that was great. I love that because I think for me as a viewer that was a good mix of like action and then also exposition. Let's talk. Let's get into who these people are.
Well, what's interesting about that is, and I remember you saying this, you telling me that some people you were like, I don't care about their flashbacks. Like, I just want to keep hearing what's going on the island.
Yeah.
This is in season 1. You
That's
had
true.
that. You had that note. And other people I've talked to about the show, like because we've been watching it, I talk a lot about it in grad school, and that's been a lot of other people's comments too. Like, well, I liked the plot when it was on the island, but I hated all the flashbacks. And so it's one of those. It's a little bit divisive.
It's hard.
But I think it's awesome. I'm a huge fan of them.
There's definitely a balance, right? Because I think it depends on what's happening on the island too. Because sometimes they leave you hanging, and you're like, no, come back. I really want to see how this ends. But I think the reason why the characters are so effective on the island is because we know all of their backstory and we know how they tick. So you kind of need both, I would say. If you took it out, I don't know that you would feel like you had the same journey with the characters.
Yeah. Yep. That's a great point.
Thank you.
That is a great point.
It is a great point.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
All the actors said that this pilot episode was the craziest set that they've ever been on. Even ones that were on like bigger feature films. They're like, it was just nuts with a plane. So what they did was they got a plane out of a junkyard and they ferried it over to Hawaii and they put it on the beach. And then they created that entire scene with this like junkyard plane that they built and made just like this crazy set piece. And there was like explosions everywhere and smoke and all this crazy shit. And it's the most expensive pilot in TV history. It would cost $14 million.
Oh my gosh. Whoa.
So what's funny is a lot of the writers on this didn't think the show was going to get picked up, but they were like, let's just go as big as we possibly can, because J.J. Abrams would say this all the time on set. He's like, we're not making an episode 2. So let's just make the craziest episode 1 with ABC's money. Let's just make this wild.
Again, like how fun to like be in that kind of position where it's like, you know what? Let's not pinch these pennies.
We have nothing to lose, baby.
Make it rain.
Oh, now when they were filming this, the bugs were absolutely terrible.
Oh, no.
Now Hawaii though is known to like not have a ton of bugs. I've heard people say like there's no mosquitoes in Hawaii. There's just a lot of cockroaches and things like that.
But they're like so in and near the jungle part. So I feel like maybe that's true for like the inhabited portions of Hawaii. But maybe when you're like straight up on some jungle, there's gonna be some bugs.
Yeah, because every time when it turned night and they would like have a torch or like a dimly lit scene,
oh, God.
the bugs would go right for where the light is. So they would go right for your face a lot of times because you'd be holding the torch and they would attack your face. and Hurley had it the worst because he has that big hair. And they would try to nest in his hair. And at the end of the night, they would have to like pick all the bugs out of his hair. And he would have to like go shower to get all the bugs out of there because they would go like nest in there.
Ew. Oh no. I would love to see just like a collaboration of outtakes of people getting hit in the face with bugs during filming. Like it's going to be always during like really serious moments, right? At night, that's always when the crazy stuff happens. Like, oh, chin up. I ate it. It's in my mouth.
I want the truth. Just this once. What is it?
belonged to the man I loved.
The truth.
It belonged to the man I loved.
Stop lying to me. Tell me the truth.
It belonged to the man I killed.
It rained on set, at least for a portion of the day, for like the first 22 days of the set. And in fact, they even had a point in time where they were trying to film, I think this was in season 3 or 4, where for 42 straight days, it rained pretty much constantly. Wow. And they had to like work around, like, how do we keep the set dry? You know, in season 5, when there's that big pit that Juliet falls into where like their nuke is going to go, it's going to be the site of the hatch.
Yep.
And it's like there's like a big crater that's been dug into the earth. I've seen pictures. It was filled with water.
Yeah.
And so they had to like drain it all of this water. And the mud was like go up to your knees. And it was just like horrible working conditions. And they had to bring a truckload of boots so people could change out boots all the time because they'd just be drenched in mud and they'd start to suck into the mud all the time.
Oh, gosh. That sounds terrible.
So Lost, you did something a little bit different than most TV shows. Most TV shows have like different directors for different episodes, but Lost decided for every finale, it was going to be the same exact director because they wanted like those to be the moments, and sometimes the premiere episode of each season too, where those have like the same director to kind of keep them all in line with each other.
Yeah, I guess as the director returning, I would be a little pissed at certain seasons to seasons and be like, what did you do? And what am I working with here? What time is it? What? We're going to do what to get back to when? So I would be a bit miffed.
Well, it's good to know. We'll keep you off the TV show set then.
Yeah, I guess so.
Speaking of directors, though, J.J. Abrams, he directed the pilot, and he was like a main focal piece of like the first half of season 1, and then he left. So we always attribute this show to J.J. Abrams.
Yeah.
He really didn't do a ton of it. He did a lot of the preliminary stuff. He got the show off the ground. And then he wasn't a part of it at all, like after halfway through season 1. And then he comes back, he writes like an episode or directs an episode every once in a while.
Sure.
But then even after season 3, he's not in any of it. So that's why he didn't know anything about Jacob.
I could say he doesn't know who
He's like, I
Jacob
don't know who
is.
that is. And he went and he did Mission Impossible 3. Have you seen that movie?
I'm sure, but I can't think of like who's in that one.
It's the worst Mission Impossible. It's the one where he goes into Rome and he's on like this wall around the Vatican and he goes, Tom Cruise goes, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. And then he flies like a flying squirrel with like a weird coat thing on, and he flies into the Vatican. And it's the stupidest moment, I think, in film history, next to Triple X with Vin Diesel where he's riding a rocket. Like, those are the two dumbest action movie moments of all time.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes.
I forgot about that scene.
And my buddies will definitely defend that moment, but it's moronic.
No, you can't.
For sure. They will.
It's undefendable.
Impossible's the greatest.
Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall?
Yep.
Stop.
True story.
Stop.
So a lot of times people would go to J.J. Abrams and they'd be like, what's going on with Lost? Like, this show is getting really weird. And he would be like, look, man, I'm directing Mission Impossible right now, so I'm going to have to direct you all to those guys because I don't know what's going on.
I just told him to make stuff up, and don't worry how it fits together. That's what I said.
Yep. You're all going to be really mad when you find out that they follow what I said to do. After season 3, the writers and the producers decided, okay, we've made all these mysteries, we've done all this crazy shit. It's time to start plotting out how is this bad boy going to end. So they didn't think about that at all until the end of season 3, between 3 and 4.
Wow.
And then they decided, okay, let's structure out our ending here. And the time travel thing that you hate so much.
Yep.
So they knew where they wanted to go, where they wanted to show the island's past. They wanted to show, they wanted to eventually do this like alternative reality thing with the sideways in season 6. And they wanted all this crazy shit to come up. So that was the whole point. They're like, we got to start skipping through time. We start talking about time more. You want to talk a lot all about that?
No. I mean, I feel like I've been talking about it. I just really...
You did not like the time stuff.
I didn't like season 5, the hopping around back and forth through time, and I thought it was needlessly complicated. I think there was a simpler way to tell that story and to have flashbacks to that time, or like without having to like physically take the island back and forth in time. You know, I feel like we could still have flashbacks and know because we did that in other seasons and that was fine. But yeah, I don't know. I just things get complicated with time travel.
Yep.
And so you add that and it just makes it just unclear of what the show wanted to be. It really threw a wrench in it for me.
You would probably really like that movie with Hayden Christensen and Rachel Bilson.
Oh, no.
Jumper. You should watch that movie.
I don't
think
think
you'd
so.
like it. I
I
think
don't
they
think
jump
so.
through time in that movie a lot too. I think it's be pretty fun for you.
Well, it's one thing if that's your gimmick, great. But this is like gimmick on gimmick on gimmick. So like you kind of have to pick one and maybe just don't add time travel. Because
Yeah.
it's already complicated. We don't need that on top of like everything else.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you.
Do
but
you agree with me?
I do.
Okay, I'm feeling judged.
No, don't feel judged. Don't feel
That's
judged.
how I feel.
So Lindelof, the other main creator guy,
Mm-hmm.
he was having mental breakdowns, and he didn't think he was going to be able to make it much farther in the show. And in fact, in season 3, he just disappeared for a week. He walked off set.
Mm-hmm.
He went to some like really nice resort, and he just lived there for a week and decompressed. And then he
Nice.
came back, and he's like, "Okay, I'm ready, but I need to know when is this going to end." So that's another reason why they were like, "Okay, we'll set the ending for season 6." Because one of our main showrunners is having a mental breakdown. We gotta have a plan.
Having it.
He had also lost his dad right before the show started, and he never realized as he was writing and working on the creative portion that he was kind of like basing a lot of the Jack stuff on like his experience with Jack losing his dad.
Well, that's kind of a cool story.
So one of the things that they decided after season 3 is the fans had become like this monster, this amoeba of like creativity that they were like dominating fan forums and like
The
we have all
Lost
these
fans?
ideas. Yeah, yep, like let's do this and you should do this.
This is what all fanfic
And the Lost creators listened. They were
Yeah.
like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to mine all the fans' ideas for like things that we think are really cool. And so they took a lot of the fans' ideas for 4, 5, and 6. So you can kind of get mad at the fans too for like some of the stuff that happened. But then they did get in trouble because then in the middle of the season, when fans would see what was happening, they would have more ideas. They'd be like, "Oh, you're going here? You should do this. You should do this." But then they were like, "No, we wrote a season. Like we took you into account before, but now you just got to appreciate the ride." And fans were like, "No, we want to be listened to though."
you can't give people too much power.
I know.
They just want more.
People just want to be led, you know?
I think so.
That's what I always say. People want to be led. So right before they released this show, the producers were just about to change the title from Lost to Nowhere. What do you think, Rach?
No. Dislike. Strongly dislike. Disapprove. Nowhere.
Nowhere. Where are you? Nowhere. That was their whole thing. They're like, "Where are you? You're nowhere."
Yeah, it just doesn't have the same je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. Well, J.J. Abrams and Lindelof, they wanted Lost, and they fought back against the producers and ended up winning.
Yep. Nope. We're in charge. Suck it, fans.
The first showings of the TV show, like for season 1, they were pretty terrible. And they had only had 9 days to edit. And so they had just quickly thrown this shit together. And the cast went and saw the premiere. And most of them walked out and they were like, "Yeah, this show's getting canceled for sure. Like, it's not going to get picked up. Like, it just wasn't high enough quality."
Sure.
But they threw way more work on it before they finally released it to the
okay.
audience. And they were actually preparing for movie rights because they thought the show was going to fail. So they're like, "Okay, this show's going to fail. Let's start getting the movie rights ready and start
Because
prepping
I thought they were
it."
going to make it into a movie
Yeah,
instead.
they were like, well-
this isn't a TV show, but it might be a movie.
Might be like a B movie or something. Like, we could make something
We
out
could
of
like
this.
we already spent $14 million on that plane,
Yeah,
so
we
I
could
think
just use
we
that
could just
plane
keep
footage.
using it. Yeah.
So the first episode premieres on September of 2004, and it's a smash, baby! We got a good one.
September of 2004, junior year of high school.
Yep. Yeah. And, well, no, it was senior year because we graduated in 05. September
Senior
of
year
2004.
high school.
Yeah, we were getting ready for homecoming,
living our best lives.
and Lost was getting ready to premiere.
How about that?
If I could go back, I would skip homecoming and all the football games, theater, anything that I was doing,
All
and I
the
would just
bogus.
invest it in Lost.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. I would join you.
Yeah, like back in the future. Maybe that's our time hop. Like we go back in our time, and then it's like, "Hey, do you want to come over and watch Lost with me?" And I'm like, "I've never seen you before, Sideburns,"
weird
and I'm
kid.
like, "Come watch Lost with me." You're like, "Oh, okay.
Oh, it's week to week. It'll take a really long time.
I think I might have saw you in Peter Pan. I don't know if you saw Peter Pan at the Community Theater. Or not.
Nope, sure did.
I saw you in Ragtime. I'd be like, "Hey, Ragtime girl." Lost was at its hottest right at the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2, they had 23 million viewers. And the last episode of the last season had 12 million viewers. So they had lost half of their viewership by the time the show ended. This is a show that's hard to pick up if you miss stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine
oh, yeah.
Oh, shit, I had to go to that conference. I missed 2 weeks of Lost.
You miss one
I'm
episode,
effed.
while they'd try it with the flashbacks, obviously, previously on Lost. There's just too much. And I think, we can get into what we love and what our qualms are, but I think to me that might be, I know it's part of the appeal of Lost. It's so crazy, but does it have to be always so crazy? So much so that, we can't even make sense of it if we miss 30 minutes of it? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
It's part of the charm of the show, though.
Is it?
It keeps you going.
Yeah.
They actually structured the show so it has 5 cliffhangers every episode with one big cliffhanger. So you come back after the commercial breaks.
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
So the show's
Commercial
structured in a way to
breaks.
keep you wanting to watch.
Whoa.
Yep. And nobody had ever tried that before.
Interesting.
This is the last
pretty
big
genius.
This
I
is
mean,
the last
really.
big show. With this, Breaking Bad, Mad Men. They're kind of seen as the last 3 big shows before streaming takes over.
Yeah.
So this is the end of network TV right
The
here.
end of an era.
Yep. AMC has Mad Men.
Mm-hmm.
I think Breaking Bad is on maybe Fox, and then
Might
this
have been
is on
AMC
ABC.
too, actually.
And so this is the end of
This
network
is-
TV, kind of.
This is the end
with
as
those
we know
kinds
it.
of numbers, with that kind of appeal.
Yeah.
'Cause you're never going to get it that big again.
Ever.
The show ends May of 2010, and I decide to make my move on you September of 2010. So 6 months later.
Wow.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
2010. Okay. Jeez.
Yeah.
I didn't remember you watching this around that time.
I think I'd already seen it by the time we got together. Mm-hmm. I think I just finished it.
Did this motivate you at all in any ways? Were you you know what? I don't want to end up lost on an island.
I don't want to end up nowhere.
So I'm going to make my move.
Yeah.
I did?
No, I don't know. Can't hardly wait, probably more. This show was nominated for 54 Emmys over the course of its run.
Oh, in what areas?
Lots for writing,
54.
lots for directing,
Sure.
supporting actor, best series. It had 11 wins. It actually won best drama first season, 2004.
Yeah.
It won the award. And Saeed was nominated for best supporting. Mm-hmm. Locke got nominated 3 times for best supporting and won once. Mm-hmm. And Ben got nominated 4 times for best supporting and won once. And then the last season, it got nominated for best series again, but it didn't win. Mm-hmm. And Jack got nominated for best actor.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So only the guys were nominated on this?
Yeah. Who would you, nominated Kate probably? Who, nominated Son? Who would you have
I don't
nominated
know.
for
I mean,
girls?
between those two.
Yeah,
but,
probably those two.
I'd have to know
Not
what
Claire.
else they were up against. So to me, that would be helpful. I
Yeah.
guess if Grey's Anatomy is obviously around this time, that's
Sure.
obviously going to be a front runner for women. But yeah, just interesting.
Jack's year that he was up for best actor, he was up against Kyle Chandler, and he was up against John Hamm,
Whoa.
and he was up against Hugh Laurie in House,
Mm-hmm.
and there was I don't remember who the 5th one was, but it was all stacked.
Yeah,
it
what
might
a
have been
year.
Brian. It might have been Bryan Cranston in Breaking
Jeez.
Bad. It was
All
whoa,
the studs in
this
one
is
place.
a good year.
Incredible.
So let me tell you the Rotten Tomatoes scores.
Okay.
The first season got a 94%, 97% audience.
Mm-hmm.
Second season, 100%, 94% audience.
Whoa.
So the audience is going to gradually go down.
Yeah.
Third season, 71%, quite a drop. 93% though for audience. Season 4, 88%, 92% audience. Season 5, 90% Rotten Tomatoes. This is your least favorite season.
Yeah.
86% for the audience. And then season 6, huge drop for Rotten
Oh.
Tomatoes, 68% and 83% score for the audience. Lowest audience score and the lowest score for Rotten Tomatoes as well.
Gotcha.
Now, do you have a preference in seasons?
I love the early stuff, especially. I love season 1.
Yep.
And I know we talked a little bit about this. I think season 2 even 3, all the way up to kind of like meeting the others and kind of infiltrating the others and the stuff with Ben and even like the tailies too. Like those seasons are.
I love it when you use the lingo.
Oh, I didn't know it. I just learned it like a couple minutes ago. Those are my favorite seasons because those feel a little bit more like, for me, maybe more grounded in the world.
But that's funny because that's when they were flying by the seat.
I know,
1,
but
2,
like,
and 3.
I was trusting that they were going to clean their mess up. I blindly thought like, okay, as a good TV show would do, this will all be explained at some point, not knowing that I would later be disappointed because maybe we dropped the ball or 3 or 4 on a couple of things that maybe should have been tidied up.
Sure.
Tidy-dooped.
So you'd say 1, 2, and 3 are the highest?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember where do you know, can you remind me like what's in 4?
4 is when the new group comes in on the chopper.
Yeah.
That's when Miles and the pilot.
I should get more excited about that. Like, ooh, people are coming to the island. Ooh, people are getting off the island.
Yeah, that's when the group
I think
leaves
it's an
too.
interesting concept, but if I have to compare it to all the other ones, like that's when you start to lose me a little bit.
Yep.
And then for me, I actually come back around for the last season, right? But a part of that is also just like so ready for
Saying
this
goodbye.
journey to be like, all right, here we go, guys.
Yep.
One last hurrah. Let's figure out what we're going to do with this island. So
I don't even know between 1, 2, and 3 what's my favorite. I think 1, 2, and 3 are all just like, for me, they're all 100% seasons.
it's a good story.
And then 4 drops, 5 really drops, and 6, I'm going to say a hot take right now. 6 for me is probably back to 100%.
Oh, all
Because
the way.
we'll get into. I think I know a little bit more than you do, and not because of knowledge, but because I watched some supplementary material, and I'm going to tell you about it. Because there's been some extra stuff that's come out since.
Since?
Yes,
We
and
fixed some things?
it cleaned some things up, and I'm like,
that's-
well, this makes a lot of sense now.
Sure. Okay.
So and it made me like really at home with season 6, and we'll talk
So
about the
we're
ending
about
much.
kind of the same then, as
Okay.
far as like our likability of the different seasons where they kind of ebb and flow. Like 1, 2, and 3, great. 4, 5,
Yeah.
maybe for me 5's a bit lower even than 4.
Yep, me too.
I mean, there's aspects of it that I love, right? I love some of the relationships that happen there with like Sawyer and Julia, like that
Yeah,
happens.
Juliet,
so,
yep.
Juliet,
But Jack was annoying in that season.
Oh,
and Jack's
God,
my
he
favorite
was
character.
so
And Jack was
annoying. He
annoying
was
in
on a
season 5.
bender the
Yeah, he
whole
was like,
season
I'm just
5.
going to be really annoying and weird.
Yeah, I didn't understand his motivation for all of that. So, anyways.
This show is ranked 39 in Rolling Stone's top 100 TV shows of all time.
Wow.
And Buffy is ahead of it.
Okay.
Really, that's the show that's right ahead of it.
Uh-huh.
On TV Guide, it's number 36. On Empire, it's number 9. And once again, Buffy is the show right ahead of it. So it has this rivalry with Buffy.
Always in the shadow of Buffy the Slayer.
Yep, absolutely. So that's our next show. We're just going to start working our way up.
People would love that.
Yeah, I know. You're getting into Buffy. Yes,
we love it.
and then we're going Angel.
Oh, we have to do Angel too.
We have to do them together. Now, this show is in the same exact universe. We talk about canon, right? Is it in the same universe? Oh, gosh, what show? We recently talked about this on this podcast. But anyways, it's in the same universe as the TV show Once Upon a Time. There's oceanic flights. There is, those candy bars, those Apollo candies that look so good, so tasty.
Are you being serious?
Yeah, those Apollo candy bars are in Once Upon a Time as well. The producers are the same for both shows.
Those idiots. Why would you do that? That's so weird.
Well, because there's science and sci-fi and fantasy on the island, and then there's also sci-fi and fantasy in real life with the fairy tales.
No. Oh, that's so weird.
So now you have to watch that show to like see the connections.
Gosh.
Yep.
Oh, that sounds awful.
The Dharma Initiative originally had a different name. Do you have a name that you like to give the Dharma Initiative?
So the Dharma Initiative is the science industry or whatever, the research facility that takes place on this island because of the fun electromagnetic weirdness that's happening,
We're
right?
seeing if they can uncover some scientific miracles.
Yeah.
They brought the polar bears.
Yeah, they had a zoo, and they just bought a zoo, and then they let it go. They let it, go to shit. So then the polar bears ran amok, and they were like big.
How'd they get those lasers on their heads?
I don't know. other names for it.
Yeah, do you have a name that you'd rename them to something different?
Yeah. No, I got nothing.
They were originally going to be called the Medusa Corporation, which sounds like bad guys out of a comic book.
For sure.
Yeah, we're the Medusa Corporation, and we're here to stop you, Spidey.
Trust us, we're the good guys. Like, what's your company called? Medusa? No way. No way. Are you crazy?
There's several moments in the show where there's a lot of math that's presented. So, like, oh gosh,
A lot of quantum
what's
physics.
our guy who kind of talks
Oh,
like this?
can we talk about this actor?
Yes.
Whoever he is.
Oh, he plays the character. What's his name?
Oh, God, I can't even.
There's some things. I need you to go visit my mother, Desmond. He always whispers everything like this. There's some things going on through time.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Daniel Faraday.
Yes, that he's like this physicist character who comes to the island later on and, is
In season 4.
in season 4. Again, he has the ability, he studies time travel, whatever. It's not important. It's not necessary to the end story, truly. But, yeah.
In about 4 hours, the Dharma folks at the Swan Works site, they're gonna drill into the ground and accidentally tap into a massive pocket of energy. The result of the release of this energy would be catastrophic. So, in order to contain it, they're gonna have to cement the entire area in like Chernobyl. And this containment, the place they built over it, I believe you called it the hatch. The Swan Hatch. Because of this one accident, these people are going to spend the next 20 years keeping that energy at bay by pressing a button. A button that your friend Desmond will one day fail to push. And that will cause your plane, Oceanic 815, to crash on this island.
Boy, he's just always whispering.
I have to tell you something that's really important.
Your face even looks like it when you're doing that.
Because I close my
He always
eyes.
Closes his
He
eyes.
always closes his eyes when he talks.
He just has like the greasiest wiry hair that's like covering a. His hair did not improve over
No,
the
he
course
did not
of the
take his
island.
lost money to get hair
Nope.
implants like
Nope,
everybody
he
else
still
did.
is covering up a really bad comb over.
Hey, but speaking of the hair, though, so everybody improved their hair.
Yeah.
But Jack has nasty teeth kind of throughout the whole show.
I mean, they're a bit askew, right? Which
But that's
can
okay.
be fun.
Askew's fine.
But you're right. They are
But they're
not
yellow.
They're not like pearly Hollywood white.
When actors, when you have like a gap in your tooth or anything that's like structural, I never am going to fault you for that. That's that's a huge undertaking. I know what it's like because I've been through it.
Well, I think
But
it's
when
a
you don't-
personality thing too. It's fun.
When you don't get you don't brush your teeth enough, or some people who just have a natural disposition to have yellow or off-color teeth, when you don't get the work done when you have the money to do so, that always confuses me.
Okay, but here's the other part. What if he's a method actor and he really like wasn't
On this
brushing
island.
his teeth during the island?
Well, he
part?
needed to talk to Sun because Sun had that plant that he had grown where you could brush your teeth with
Yeah,
it.
she was using aloe or something.
Yeah.
So, but
And she used it as toothpaste.
yeah,
so
but I
he
think
could have talked to her.
an aloe plant is still gonna make you have nasty teeth. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a dentist.
Well, Sun
per
had great
se.
teeth. Sun had great teeth,
Sun
though.
had great
Let me
teeth.
just put that out there in her bikini bod. The math that was in the show,
Yes.
that you see all over chalkboards, like crazy math.
Was it all real?
It was. It was all done by actual physics experts.
Mm-hmm.
They brought them in, these mathematicians, to do high level math on the board. And the math was all about where the island supposedly was situated in the Pacific. So they were bouncing like different algorithms and stuff off of like locations and things like that. It was all legit.
I know that was meant to impress me.
You weren't impressed at all?
No, I'm not. That sounds so stupid. Just go grab a quantum physics textbook, copy some stuff down like everybody else does when you're creating set pieces. Like, what?
Look, when I was at the Washington Pavilion and I was playing the dino scientist in my most famous work in
Yep.
Sioux Falls, we grabbed actual mathematics formulas to put on the back wall.
Yeah.
But those formulas had nothing to do with anything.
Per usual.
Were you impressed? Were you like, oh, those look like real formulas, but I don't
thought
care
your
what they
set
are?
dressings were great. I'm not going to spend time looking at them because I'm going to assume they're set dressings. I don't care.
But what about in Harry Potter? And every single potion, when we went to the studio in London, every single potion had really small handwriting that was all legitimate from the books. Weren't you impressed by that, even though you never would have gotten that?
That's just craft, is what that is. That's different. That's
But
not
how
the
is
same.
it not craft with a chalkboard?
Because it's not. It's not the same. Harry Potter is all craft. They knew the end of that story when we got started, I think.
Yeah, I think she did. I think she knew a lot of it anyway.
She wasn't just trying to tie up loose ends because she was having a mental breakdown and she was ready to be done. I'm over this. Oh, one more book. Book 7. We're out of here.
So the original script for season 1, actually the first few episodes, had Sawyer trying to hang on to Hurley, who's hanging over a cliff, and he can't hang on to him, and Hurley plummets to his death.
Oh, gosh. Hurley.
They got a couple episodes in, and they're like, we actually like this Hurley character, and we really like what Garcia's doing with this. Let's write that out. Yeah. So he was going to be an early casualty of the show.
Oh, I'm glad they kept him around. He's a lightness.
In the script, they would refer to him as Red Shirt. Do you know what that reference is?
Hurley as Red Shirt?
Hurley was referred to as Red Shirt.
Red Shirt?
Yep.
Like
not in football. Getting a year of eligibility.
I mean, was it legitimate? Like, did he have a red shirt that he was wearing most of the time?
That's what he thought. He thought his character was going to have a red shirt.
Uh-huh.
So Red Shirt refers to a Star Trek thing, which is like there's a guy who in every episode would have a red shirt on, and he'd like accompany them down. So it'd be like Spock and Kirk and this guy in a red shirt. Mm-hmm. You always knew the red shirt guy was for sure going to die. You would even say that in Lost when it would be like Locke and Jack are going to go and they're going to take one of these random extras. And you're like, oh, that extra's dead for sure.
He's dead.
Smoke Monster's getting him.
Yeah. Someone's got to die.
So that's what the red shirt was for Star Trek.
Okay.
But it'd always be this guy in this red shirt. It was like a running joke.
Okay.
They would put that in his character description, and Hurley didn't know what that meant, but it meant that he was going to die. They're like, yeah, he's just hanging on for a couple episodes. He's going to die.
Well, ignorance is bliss, because maybe he would be like acting scared, you know, instead of just like living it and just giving his character a full life. I think that probably came across in his work, so it's probably best he didn't know.
I mean, he went from dying in one of the first few episodes to, spoiler alert, at the very end of the show, he takes over the island. Oh, yeah. He becomes the Guardian.
Yeah.
He's the guy.
He's the guy.
So, is his name Dr. Arnst or something like that? The guy who blows up from dynamite in season 1, the asshole chemistry teacher who's on the island with him?
Sure.
That guy and Hurley are super good buddies. They became buds on set, and they stayed friends for pretty much up to this day. And they have a huge love of monster movies. They do like all these collaborations about like horror and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And they're super close. They're like the top friendship leaving the show, which you
fun.
never,
That's
I
so
would
random.
never, expected. One thing about Locke. So Locke was kind of like himself in his walkabouts. Mm-hmm. Locke would walk 13 miles to the set every single day. And there was one day where he got injured on set. So he didn't ask somebody for a ride home, which is kind of weird. He hitchhiked home. And the show was really popular at this time already. And so he hitchhiked, and the lady picked him up. And she goes, oh, my God, you're John Locke. And he's like, yeah, can I get a ride to my like apartment or stuff? And she's like, sure, jump in. And she didn't take him to his apartment, though. She took him to her house. And he's like, what are we doing? And she's like, I have to show my husband and my kids that you're with me right now. And so she made him go into her house and say hi to her family. And so it's like he got mini kidnapped by this weird hitchhiker.
Well, I mean, what a natural consequence for being kind of a weirdo, right? I mean, like, John, whatever his name is, Locke, that's on you a little bit. Like,
Terry O'Quinn, I think.
You're going to hitchhike, like, you could get kidnapped. That's a natural consequence. So he must have never had that happen to him before. I bet he doesn't hitchhike anymore.
They had to be to the set in Hawaii at like 4:30 in the morning, too.
Oh,
so, like, imagine walking to the set that early in the morning. Yeah, I know Charlie lived on the opposite side of the island, and he said it was like an hour and a half drive, and so he had to get up at like 2:30 every morning and drive to the set. Yeah, and so, it just sounded difficult, for sure. The hatch door that blows off at the end of season 1, that has actually been turned into a coffee table. And Lindelof, the guy who's Abrams, it's his coffee table now.
That's pretty cool.
I think that's awesome. What a cool set piece that would be.
I mean, truly, it kind of encapsulates, no pun intended, the whole like feel of the show, right? The hatch door, that's a pretty epic set piece that you would want to keep.
Rach, spoil season 5 for us. They're carrying around this coffin. And at the end of season 5, the coffin tips over and a body spills out. Whose body do we realize they had died, even though they were still technically on the show?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So, Locke is right. Am I on the right,
Yeah,
right
for
season?
sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Locke is dead, and we get back on this island. We're led to believe that he was dead, but somehow now he's reincarnated and he's back walking around on the island, his normal self, and we're like, oh, cool, you're here. Only to find out that no, Locke is still dead, and he's still in that coffin. But there's somebody on the island walking around looking a hell of a lot like Locke.
Yep.
And that man is the man in the black shirt.
The
What's
smoke
his name?
monster. Yep. Man in Black.
Man
Yep.
in black.
Yep. Who they
Black.
never give a name to, which is kind of weird to me.
I'll be honest, it was a little bit into the episodes that we were watching last night that I kept thinking like, wait, what's this guy's name?
Even when he was a kid. In
I
the
couldn't-
flashback episode,
they
they're like, they
never said
never
his
named the
name.
kid. They're like,
They
your
never
name is
named
Jacob. And then she brings out the other baby and is like, I never thought of a name for that one.
Yeah, he like legitimately didn't have a name. That was a thing.
It was wild.
Poor kid. It makes a lot of sense why he is the way he is.
Yeah, why he turned evil.
No, for sure.
So they filmed that coffin scene, though, with Desmond in the coffin
Okay.
and with Sawyer in the coffin.
Okay.
And Desmond and Sawyer, the actors who played them, didn't know, is this because I'm going to die this season?
Yeah.
And so they were like kind of on pins and needles, like, am I getting killed from the show? What's happening? Because they kept it under wraps. And then they did that because they didn't want spoilers to leak. Like, oh, Locke's going to die at the end of
Yeah.
the season. That leaked from the set.
Uh-huh.
And so they filmed these other two dying as well. But it made Sawyer and Desmond kind of freaked out because they're like, I think I'm getting kicked off the show.
Wow. That's crazy. Like the lengths that you have to go to keep things a secret, even from your own cast, when you're on an island far away filming. It's crazy. Crazy world.
Evangeline Lilly,
Yes.
there was romance in this show, Rach. And it has to do with the love of my life, not you, Evangeline Lilly.
Yes. What about her?
She had a romantic endeavor with somebody in this cast. Do you
Yeah?
want to guess who it was?
Was it the guy who whispers?
It was Daniel Faraday. No, it was not Daniel Faraday.
Thank God. They'd be a terrible couple. Is it someone I would expect it to be?
I don't think so.
Okay. So it's maybe not one of the main ones? Or is it one of the main ones?
Kind of.
Sawyer?
Nope.
Miles?
No.
I know it's not Jack.
Nope, it's not Jack.
Ben Linus.
No. That would be awesome. No. Charlie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they dated for like 3 years.
What?
Yeah. And then she ended up getting married to it was like a production assistant on that show.
Oh.
So she hooked up with a production assistant like late in the show's process. She was only 25 when she got cast.
Really?
Jack was 38. Matthew Fox was 38.
Oh my gosh.
And she was 25.
Well, I don't know who that is more shocking for. Like,
Oh, how old Jack
I think
was?
both of them are pretty shocking. He was that old,
He
and
was
she was
38.
that young.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
He's in his
kinda-
50s now.
It's almost a little creepy. Their age gap there.
Yeah.
It's like borderline.
She's
like,
only 41 right now.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
And she had a Me Too movement on this. Me Too moment on this
Oh,
set. It's
yeah.
kind of sad. It happened during season 3.
Uh-huh.
She was instructed to be pretty much naked in a scene, have partial nudity.
Yeah.
And she didn't really want to do it. I think it's in the cage with Sawyer in season 3. If
Oh,
you know, in
yeah.
the bear cage, if you guys know what I'm
Yep,
referring
they
to.
have their love
during the
scene.
rain. And she wanted like control over it at least, like to say like how it was going to go down. And they pretty much just like bulldozed her. And they're like, no, this is how we're going to do it. No, you're going to do it this way. And they pretty much just forced her into doing it. And she felt super uncomfortable. She broke down. She started crying after she did it. She felt terrible and all these things. And then she was like, I'm never going to let this happen again. Season 4. They wanted her to like take a shower in a scene, and they made her like strip and get naked again. And she said, I want to have control this time. You made me do this in season 3. Now we're a season later. I'll do it, but I want to have control over how it's going to look, how the shot is, who all is going to be in the room. I want to have say.
Yeah.
And they bulldozed her again.
Seriously?
And they said no. And so she went through it, and she went through the same thing where she like bawled and cried about it, and thought it was, I say bawled like as a negative connotation. I mean in a positive way.
Yeah, yeah.
And so after that moment, she went to the producers and she said, look, here's where we're at. I've done this now twice for you. I will never do this again. You can write all the sex scenes, all the naked scenes in it that you want. I will refuse to do them. You can kick me off the show if you want, but I'm Kate and I'm probably not going anywhere. And so I just won't be doing them. So go ahead and write them all you want, but they're not happening anymore.
Oh,
and
good for her to find her voice. But like,
took way too long.
What a shitty situation to be in, to have to like, you know, you're going to get naked or you're going to lose your job, you know, and like as... You know, and people might say like, yeah, but like as actors, like that's the thing. Like, it's not.
It's not.
You
As
know?
an actor, you have control of your body, you have control over your voice, you have control over everything.
Yeah.
And if
you
a director,
get a say in that.
Yeah, and you have self-respect in that
Yeah.
you should be able to do what you want to do.
Yeah.
I hate it. It was a gross story. It kind of soured my whole image of like the production side of that squad.
Yeah, that makes me sad.
But the cast got really close. So on the cast side,
that's cool.
it was a close cast. They did a lot of fun shit together. Matthew Fox kind of took it upon himself to be like a leader in the cast to like bond them as well. I know, right? And so his big idea, his first bonding experience, and Locke has confirmed this. Terry O'Quinn said, yep, I definitely participated in this. That was a thing. That he got them all to go skinny dipping several times.
Again,
in the ocean.
Let's be honest, it's a little Me Too-ish as well, right?
But we don't know if it was just the dudes. We don't know who all was involved. But he said that
the fun peer pressure of that, you know, and they're like, oh, do we like that? I don't know.
Hey, Rach.
What?
Have you ever skinny dipped before? Busted. She didn't confirm. But she didn't deny.
She didn't deny.
So a couple other things that they did too is they loved karaoke. And surprisingly, the person who was the biggest karaoke advocate, I mean, Hurley and Jack were also really into it, but Jin loved karaoke, and he was like a karaoke master. He had like a whole catalog of songs. And
awesome.
Matthew Fox said that he'd always open with Hotel California. That was his like go-to
Sure.
karaoke hit.
I mean, that's a solid karaoke opener.
The cast would party and get drunk all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe leading to their DUIs. And when they would party together, Sawyer would always get wasted. The guy playing Sawyer.
I can see
and
that.
he would try out these nicknames on the characters that he would then bring into the show. So like
Seriously.
all the mean ones about Hurley. He's like, we made sure that they weren't mean in the moment, but I come up with stuff with Hurley like in the moment, and then like Mr. Clean for Locke and stuff, and Doc, all these things. Like he would come up with nicknames for everybody. I think he had one. It was like licorice sticks or something for Shannon. It was something like her long legs or something. But he'd like pilot all these nicknames that then he would use in the show.
Guess that's why El Jacko and Honolulu didn't ask me to join their revolution. That's a hobby of yours, underdog?
You got a map you ain't showing me, Magella?
It ain't the bell of the ball.
Stop what, Chico?
You know what I think, Ali?
Skeletor seems to like it. Bottoms up.
Just call him how I see him, Freckles.
I'm a complex guy, sweetheart.
It's all in the details, Dimples.
Sure you are, Bobby.
Vice is free, Murgatroyd.
I got a question, boss.
Talking to me now, Chachi? Oh, this girl. Sally Slingshot.
Hey, Oliver Twist.
So, random question.
Yeah.
So, did they get their DUIs in Hawaii? Is that where this all happened?
I couldn't find out.
Oh, I'm just curious.
I mean, I probably could have found out, but
yeah,
I didn't.
That's
I didn't
very
see that
specific
information.
Digging.
Like I looked to try
was
to
it back
find
in
out,
LA?
like for Ana Lucia and for Libby, like were they at the same party or anything like that, and I couldn't find any
Yeah.
information about that.
I'd just be curious if like word got around that like these like stars were like partying every night, and if it's like a kind of a calm spot in Hawaii, and it's like, well, you know, we're gonna follow
Now,
along.
watch the roads because we're gonna get the Lost cast on these DUIs over and over again.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a lot of like loose ends.
Yeah.
Do you have any loose ends that you'd like to bring up?
It'll be easier, I think, if you talk about the ones that are there, and then I think that might spark some pieces. Because while I say loose ends, I think what I could mean instead of that would be like maybe some half-ass explanations.
Okay.
You know, maybe that's more what I mean. Like, oh, that's how we're gonna explain this away. So
Okay.
yeah.
So And by the way, folks, if you haven't realized, this is going to be an uber long episode because Lost was 6 seasons and we had a lot to cover. So hopefully you're enjoying it.
Take a break, if not.
Take a break.
Take a little pause.
Yep. So there is a secret final episode that was made that was on part of the DVD features and that was never released like to network television though. It's 11 minutes long. It's called The New Man in Charge.
Okay.
So it's all about when Hurley takes over the island and uses Ben as his number 2. And so Ben is now serving Hurley, and it answers some questions in depth.
Really?
It was
11 minutes.
fascinating to watch. I loved it.
Okay.
So here's what happens. Very beginning of the episode, Ben shows up. There's 2 guys in Dharma suits. And they're working in this factory, and they're getting a pallet together. You know how those pallets would drop on the island, and then they had food and stuff for like the first couple seasons. They were getting this pallet ready. And they're like, "Hey, we got the facts. We got to make this pallet drop. The freighter's going to be coming through to like drop this stuff off on the island." Ben shows up, and he's like, "You guys don't have to do this anymore. Dharma's been dead for 20 years, and nobody told you." And they're like, "What about these faxes that we were getting?" He's like, "It's all on an automated system. You guys have just been getting these faxes, and you're still delivering stuff. We don't need it anymore, though. That part's done." And so then they were like, "Well, we have all these questions. Like, why have we been doing this?" And he goes, "I'll answer one question for each of you." And the first question is like about the island and like where it's at and stuff like that and how it moves and things. And then the second question, this one guy goes, "Okay, I have to know. Why are there polar bear biscuits in our stuff that we're dropping?" And he goes, "Okay, I'll answer that for you." And he plays like a video of the Dharma Initiative, and it goes over all the stuff about the polar bears and why the Dharma Initiative brought the polar bears to the island, because they're able to adapt to their environments really well, and they're super smart and really well connected like to other polar bears, and they have a ability to like resist electromagnetic stuff, so they're able to be like experimented on. And then it even goes over the cages and the things of the polar bears, and it shows a guy who got his arm ripped off and stuff. So there's all this stuff about the polar bears. So it kind of explains that.
Sure. I feel good about that.
Next part. You're going to love the next part. Ben shows up at the insane asylum that Hurley and Libby were at earlier in the show. And he sits down to a person playing Connect 4. So I immediately thought like it was going to be that crazy guy who plays Connect 4 earlier in the show. No, it's Walt. Walt's checked himself into an insane asylum, and he's playing Connect 4, and Ben sits down and starts talking to him about how he needs to come back to the island because he's so special and all these things. And he's like, "I feel like nobody understands me. I just checked myself in here because nobody gets me and all the stuff that I went through. My dad's dead and all these things." And he's like, "No, your dad's on the island." And he's like, "He's dead, but he's not gone. Your dad's on the island still, and he needs you to come back." So the whole stuff with Michael, what kind of gets clarified. And then Walt's like, "Okay, I'll go with you." And he walks out to this car, and he gets in the car, and Hurley's in the back seat. And he's like, "I thought you forgot about me, Hurley." And he goes, "Of course not, dude." He goes, "You need to come home. Like, you got to come back to the island. That's where you're meant to be. You're very special, Walt. And I'm here to offer you a job." So he's going to turn the island over to Walt. So at the end of the show, when you don't see Walt and you don't see Michael, it kind of is explained. Because Walt's now in charge of the island, and Michael is also on that island. He's like in between land, not ready to pass on yet.
Well, that kind of helps make sense too because, well, you know, yes, because they make such a big deal about that him as a child on the island before and how unique he is. But I don't know that we ever we got to see truly get it why, right? Because they end up leaving. So I don't know. That's interesting.
Yep.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
Did he answer the first question about why the island moves, or was that like?
No, he just says the island moves because we just know that's like a mystical thing. Like when they turn that wheel and the island can move around. Yeah. Okay. But it more moved through time, I guess. I don't know. We don't know. That part wasn't explained. No.
It's not explained.
Here's some other unexplainables. Remember when Kate found this black horse on the island and she was running around chasing a horse?
Yeah.
I forgot all about it too.
I don't even remember the loose ends sometimes. What's the horse have to do?
Nothing. It's unexplainable. They never solved that mystery.
I mean, I know she has it reminds her of a flash when she's in like a car accident back like in the U.S. There's like a thing like where that's her kind of escape from the cop that she's with, right? A horse runs out in the road and then she like is able to run away. But yeah, interesting.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. So that's one of the unexplainables.
Uh-huh.
The pregnancy deal never got solved.
Pregnancy deal?
So Claire has her baby on the island because she's later in her pregnancy, right?
Yeah.
But something about the island kills pregnancies. And so Sun is on the island. Remember, they were worried that she's going to have a miscarriage. But then she gets off the island, was one of the Oceanic Six.
Yep.
They never solved the pregnancy issue. So like anybody who gets pregnant on the island still is going to have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. That's
Because they never solved that part.
Uh-huh. Again, things that are like maybe necessary to tell some. I don't know. Is it needlessly complicated? Maybe. But we got. Go on.
You just mentioned Walt's powers are never explained. What he can do. Ben was also in love with this girl when he was on the Dharma Initiative, when he was a little kid. Remember there's a girl who's really nice to him? She gave him this doll.
Yes.
And then when Ben betrays the Dharma Initiative and goes to the others, we never hear anything else about that girl ever again.
Yeah, who does she grow up to be?
Yeah, we don't know anything about this girl.
She dead because he kills everybody?
Probably. But they never told that part of the story. We never even saw her dead or anything, So that's an unexplainable.
Yeah.
How Libby was crazy.
Yeah.
Like what made her crazy? Like what was the cause of it? How was she crazy? All that stuff was kind of unclear.
Did she get her psych license before or after she was in the,
Yep.
Good questions. Don't know.
What's the purpose of the numbers? 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42.
Oh, gosh. That's a good one.
Yeah. And how those numbers all add up to the number in the hatch. You add all those numbers up. I don't remember off the top, like 140 or 180 or something like that. That's the number that they all add up to. Like, what's the significance of that number? Yeah. So all these unexplainable things. Did you have any others that were unexplainables?
I mean, that was a good refresher for sure. I think I'd have to go back through and watch it again, and I just have to take notes. Like, oh yeah, we never find out about this, right? I mean, we did explain the smoke monster, but even at the beginning, too, I just was so unclear as to, like, who it targeted and why it targeted people to kill. Like, I don't know. Like, it's always like it was searching for something, but, like, I never understood, like, what stopped it from certain characters.
I think, in general, the island to me is kind of confusing, too. How there's this quirk in the center of the island that stops evil.
Lava? Evil?
Evil lava?
Yeah.
But it creates smoke monsters back into humans? I don't know. It's confusing. That part is confusing to me.
Yeah.
Just a general, it's a quirk to stop evil.
Yeah.
Stop the earth from exploding, I guess.
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
Let's talk about the ending.
Okay.
All right. So
I'm ready.
I'm going to tell you why people hate the ending.
Okay.
Do you want to explain the ending for our viewers? Just give us a brief.
Yeah, I think where to start on the ending. So the last season are we doing, or the last episode that we're...
Oh, last season.
The last season, we kind of have this, like, simultaneous story of, like, what's happening on the island with the last few that are on it. We're doing the final battle, between good and evil, all the men, the black T-shirt, whatever. We're all
and in the black dress.
It's really coming down to it. People are switching sides all the time, figuring it out. Are we leaving the island? Are we staying on it and sacrificing ourselves? We don't know. But at the same time, then we're also having these other clips. But it's as if there's like this different reality. And so it's
by the way, we had flashbacks, we had flash forwards.
Yeah.
These are called flash sideways or the sideways.
Ooh, flash sideways.
But that was never said in the show. The fans came up with that term.
I like
now
that.
That's like known as a thing, like the sideways. And that's just like become a thing.
That's a really great way to explain it because where it starts is it starts back on the flight and you think like, oh, are we doing this again? Where do we go back in time? Where are we? But what happens in this version of reality is the plane doesn't crash and people are in different spots in their lives. It's similar in some ways, but some careers are different, some relationships are a bit different, and how they're all connected to each other is different. And so during that last season, you get to see how these characters you can see that they're just keep getting drawn to each other, and they keep thinking like, oh, this is odd. Like, you were on this flight? How weird is that? I just met someone else today that I was on this flight. So it kind of all culminates into this last moment where they all end up together, and they all start to realize throughout the season that they have this past life together, this past shared experience on the island. They get all these it's all the best flashbacks of the 6 seasons all in their heads, and it moved me to tears many times.
Yep.
The music was great, and the scenes were highly emotionally charged.
Well, and it's like throughout the whole season, you're seeing these characters in this sideways world wake up and realize their connections with each other. And each one of those moments, as things like lighten up and you have this awakening that's kind of led by like Desmond starting it, and then like getting every other character and serving as like the mediator to get everybody to wake up. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I would cry like the last few episodes every time somebody would wake up and they'd realize all the experiences they had on the island and everything and how they're connected to each other. It was like instant tear-jerking. It was incredible.
Yeah, it was. It was just, I thought it was a really like nice nostalgic way from a season standpoint. And then you have it all culminating to this one moment where they all get together, and it's in this church setting, this kind of non-denominational church.
Yeah, because I showed Rach in the stained glass, there was all these different religious symbols. So it's not Christianity. It's like Christian symbol, Muslim symbol, Hindu, everything. Like everything, all the major sects of religion are all on this stained glass window, like saying, it doesn't matter what religion you are. We're all here. Like we're all connected as human beings. It was beautiful.
Yeah. And I think, and you can jump in if this is wrong, but I think what we're supposed to feel is that like this group of people had such a shared experience together that their souls or something in them together decided that they weren't going to move on, whatever move on means to you, until we were all together. So some of them might have died a while ago, some of them might have just died, but they all kind of like come back together in this church together, and then it kind of just ends with this like white light, like, okay, now we're going to move on as a collective group because we meant that much to each other. So I don't know.
I think it's beautiful.
What did you want? What did you want?
Well, I love the conversation Jack has with his dad, Christian, like who in the setting,
they're
talking a lot about like time not being linear, and like everybody's experiences are what matter and the connections they forged with each other, and about how this is like, it's not a reality based plane. It's like their spirits are all together, but it's not in a Christian sense. It's like non-denominational in the way they approached it. And it reminds me a lot of Soul. I told Rach, I was like, Soul copied this from Lost. I was not as big of a fan of Soul as I was of Lost. It stole this concept.
I love it. Yeah, they're just not ready to move on together until they're all together.
Yeah, and there's something so beautiful about that. And I immediately, like, it was the whole last, like, would you say 15 minutes, you're pretty much constantly crying?
Yeah. I mean, for me, yes.
I was too.
For sure.
I was like, if Rach wasn't there, I would have been open mouth sobbing. I was like trying to keep together in some semblance of like
I haven't
normalcy.
Seen you open mouth sob.
Like when we watched Hamilton, and I was like, oh, I gotta keep it together.
Oh, that's another one.
Oh man, but like the whole ending of the show, because you went on this huge journey, and you're watching Jack finally come to the realization of everything that he went through with all these human beings, this person that you've fallen in love with, and all these characters that you've fallen in love with, and they're reconnecting one last time, and it's just gorgeous. It's just a beautiful moment, and you're like you said, the music is,
Well, we kind of talked about it too. It's like you almost get like two endings, right? You get this, like really kind of hopeful like closure with the group, and then for those of you who want like maybe a darker, grittier ending, you've got Jack just like sacrificing himself on the island and dying while a plane flies overhead and people are escaping it. It's
symmetry.
Like, what did you want?
Yep.
Like you can pick which one you like better.
Guys, same exact cinematography shot.
Cinnamon.
Oh my gosh. Jack is laying, now he's not on the beach. He's in like the middle of the island, and the camera starts to pan up, and what comes and lays right next to him, and the sweetest moment ever, which just makes you be like, gosh, this freaking show. Puppy Vincent, the dog who's been around the whole time, comes and lays right next to him. And I was telling Rach, they keep showing his dad and then they show the dog, and then they show his dad, and then they show the dog again. So I was like, oh my gosh, does the dog symbolize the dad? I don't know. It doesn't even matter. All that matters is the dogs are so great, and they're just going to stand right next to you while you're dying.
This is literally what this sounded like last night as the episode was over and we were wiping away our tears and like we were at this level like, oh my God, did you see? And then this, oh my, did you see that?
And the best part was we started talking about it, and Rach goes, I'm still crying. Like 10 minutes after the show ended. He's like, I'm still crying.
I wasn't done.
I wasn't either.
Done.
You went to bed and I cried a little bit more about it too. I was like, oh gosh.
Ooh.
So, okay, here are the complaints about the ending though. I know. Our sound waves look like insanity right now.
It's so great.
Why do they hate it?
Why are they going to rain on my parade?
The people hate it because they think it got too mystical. It got away from science, got too religious, overtony, and they didn't like that. They also hated the Jacob and the Man in Black storyline, and that just felt like it was a forced way to end the show. And the heart of the island being like this quirk for all evil. That was a big complaint people had. And in Entertainment Weekly, so a lot of people said like perfect ending, like a lot of critics, a lot of audience were disappointed, but critics thought like perfect ending. Couldn't see how any way other way you'd end it, except for Entertainment Weekly and the New York Times. Entertainment Weekly said, this is going to be deeply meaningful to some and very dissatisfying poppycock for others. How pretentious can they be? Oh, that ending was poppycock.
I mean, I don't disagree with things like, you know, when we get into Jacob and the Man in the Black Tea, like, I get, like...
Black Tea. I love how you just
that's
keep
his
changing it.
name.
It's so great.
That's his name now. I mean, I get, like, some of that not being, like, as satisfying. I'm just talking about, like, pretty much, like, that last episode, kind of, like, pretend, you know, the season, take it as you will, whatever. But... that like those last moments and just the ideas that it put forth, like I don't know how you have issue with that. Like that's a great way to end a series,
deep,
that's lasted
intellectual,
that long.
spiritual. So many things are just wonderful about it. And I know I have friends who hate the ending, and I think that their concerns are valid. But for me, it was gorgeous. I don't know what else you want.
Yeah, I mean, to complain at the last, you know, the last episode or the last season that it got too religious, it's like, well, I mean, you had stuff with like Locke and Jack at the very beginning of it
Where they're talking about religion,
faith, and about like science versus faith. Like that's been a theme the whole time. So I'll be honest, like,
and the whole journey is supposed to be a man of science who learns about faith. Like that's the journey of the protagonist.
Yeah.
He learns about faith.
That's a great point. And that's the button on the whole shebang is like, here you are, a man of science, encompassed by his friends in the world of faith. Like, I don't know. If that's not the story that you were in for, maybe you should have figured that out season 1.
I think that's why you and I don't see eye to eye sometimes, Jack. Because you're a man of science.
Yeah. What does that make you?
Me? Well, I'm a man of faith.
Wow. I did not think it was poppycock. I thought it was beautiful.
Nothing is poppycock.
I thought it was just beautiful. Oh, we didn't even talk about the moment that you and I both just bawled at. One of the last episodes when our power couple, Sun and Jin, are in the submarine and the water's starting to fill up. Our Korean couple, who we've just grown to love so much. Talking about Jin being stereotypical, overprotective guy at the beginning. He's gone through such a transformation, and him and Sun have just this beautiful relationship. And the submarine's going down; it's filling up with water. He's trying to get her out,
and he doesn't leave her.
She tells him go, and he keeps saying, "I'm not going to leave you." Like,
Jen. You have to go.
No. I can do this.
No. No, you can't. Please go.
I won't leave you.
Rach and I are getting emotional just talking about it.
Getting misty again. I don't want to cry anymore.
It was gorgeous. Rach, favorite moments, favorite things throughout the series that you'd like to pinpoint?
Oh, boy, that's a big question. I mean, I did love the cliffhangers, right? Anytime that you threw that in, and usually the season finales were great because it was like, what are we doing now? So yeah, I think a lot of solids. Obviously, I mean, yes, we can pull it apart, and I certainly have my qualms about the tidiness of a lot of it, or maybe needlessly complicated stories here and there that were thrown in. But as a whole, I think, yeah, it was pretty solid for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
So some of my favorite moments.
Yeah.
With the boat leaving in season 1 and then getting blown up by the others. Remember,
Oh my
the others are like,
gosh.
"We're gonna need your son, Michael.
I'll be honest.
We're gonna
like,
need the boy." Walt."
that's when I was like, what am I in for? This is
Oh.
going to be an endlessly frustrating TV show, like where we get close to escaping, but then it never happens. So I was scared watching that.
That, all the stuff with the hatch, that was awesome.
Hatch stuff was great.
The moment when, at the end of season 3, when Jack is gonna call in those people on the boat, like Daniel Faraday and Miles and those guys, and Kate's like, "Why are you doing this?" And he goes, "It's because I love you, Kate." And it was right after he had seen her. He'd watched her on television have sex with Sawyer, and he still was like, I'm in love with this girl. I got to get her off this island. Like, I got to save her. Something beautiful about that. The Sun Jin moment in the submarine, and then the ending, like all that whole ending sequence. Some of the best moments of TV. Awesome. What'd you think of the acting? Who'd you like? Who'd you not like?
Oh, I mean, that's pretty easy. Most people, I think, even actors who I didn't like as much, like, I think still played their characters well because they didn't play likable characters. Like, I think of, like, Shannon and Boone, and I was like, oh, it's all right. Like, you guys, yeah.
Not everybody's likable.
Yeah, you don't have to be. I think most people technically aren't likable in the show. There's a handful that are right off the bat and stay likable, but for the most part, everyone's pretty flawed, which I also like about that. Yeah, I mean, I don't have like any major standouts like above and beyond like the people that you mentioned who were nominated. That doesn't surprise me at all. I thought those guys were great, and I thought, Kate and Sun would have been excellent additions to that as well.
There were a couple moments where you were like, why are they going to make Hurley the leader or Sawyer the leader? Like, why are you not making Kate or Sun the leader? Like, you had a couple moments in the show where you're like, make the girls the leader. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, they would pass the torch when Jack or Sawyer would go away and like, okay, so you're in charge. It's like, really? Maybe Sun should be in charge since she's the one who knows some medicine.
And is a pretty good leader.
Yeah, I was a little annoyed with
Yeah, sometimes you got stereotypical guys will lead.
Guys will lead on the island because we're in charge and we've got the knives. Even though Kate's equally a badass. I would argue more so than most of the men on the
for
islands.
Sure. Yeah,
so.
She's probably the third best with weapons on the island.
Don't know why.
I was annoyed with Sawyer's acting pretty frequently.
Sure.
But by the end of the show, he gets better.
He does.
He improves.
That's a great point. I forgot. The first season or two, he does great on me.
Because everything has to be a sly little punchline. Ain't that right, Freckles?
That's a really great impression. Yes, I'm remembering this now. That was a long time ago, but yeah, I was annoyed by him especially because everyone's like, oh, Sawyer's so hot. It's like, I just don't. He just annoys me too much.
Yeah.
So
he is somebody in season 5 who actually becomes pretty entertaining and pretty good. When he starts to fall in love with Juliet.
Was probably the best part about that season.
About season 5.
His story was okay, and even prior to that, I think even in season 4, I can't think of what moment I'm thinking of, but towards the end of that last half, he just got better as a character. I thought.
Yep. Favorite character?
I don't know. Who's yours?
Jack. Easy.
That was dumb. I knew that.
Yeah, of course.
I knew that.
I think he's the best.
I don't know. I can't pick one.
You can pick a couple.
A favorite character?
Yep.
I like Sun.
I do too. She's probably my second, actually.
Yeah, she's complicated.
Mm-hmm. She's strong,
she just deals
too.
with a lot. Yeah, she deals with a lot. Yeah, I'll just stick with Sun right now.
Okay. Least favorite character out of the main crew? Or one of the least favorites?
Shannon.
Me too.
Every day.
Yep. Ana Lucia started annoying me too.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Michelle
for me.
Rodriguez fan though, and I just found her to be
Her character
annoying.
was so mean all the time.
Yeah,
and
she's grating.
I couldn't justify any of her rudeness or craziness
Yeah.
throughout that. So it was hard to relate to her.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Faraday, I don't like him.
Daniel Faraday.
I mean,
there's something I gotta show you.
Yeah.
I wrote all this math. It's legitimate math. You should check on my chalkboard.
Yep. Oh, I know. Well, the actor with the weird accent. Oh, what's the character's name? Charles Whitmore.
Charles Whitmore.
Yeah.
Hey, Benjamin
This,
Linus.
like,
There
he's-
you are.
The actor is also the same guy who plays Cal in the OC.
Yep. So if you know the OC, he plays the dad to
Yeah.
the main mom, the grandpa to Seth.
Yeah, Seth's grandpa. And then I think has a decent American accent in that. I don't think I ever noticed it.
He's
but now
from New Zealand. We
now
looked
I'm
it
gonna
up.
listen to it. But yeah, so he's from New Zealand, but he does this British accent, and it's terrible. And you would think that as a New Zealander, that,
Kiwi.
yeah, but you'd think that you could do a Brit okay, right? Because like you're just a little bit off, right? Margot Robbie has no issue with it. I don't know why he has an issue with it.
She's Australian?
She's an Aussie, yeah.
I didn't know that.
So you don't even know that.
I thought
She's,
she was- I thought she
she
was
has
a Brit.
great dialect work.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. You need to take some notes. He was terrible. Just terrible. He's not necessarily a bad actor, but he's a terrible dialectician. And that ruins it. It just does. I don't think you can be a good actor if you have a bad accent.
Ooh, that's interesting.
In that role. I think you can
Yeah.
be a good actor in other roles, but like I think your role, like if you don't do the dialect work right
Yep.
or like fairly good, then for me it takes it out of it and I don't think you're good.
When I teach dialects class, I'm going to have you come in, and that's going to be the opening. My opening diatribe is going to be like, and now I present my wife, who has a few words to say. Look, guys, if you're not good at the dialects, I'm going to hate your acting. So you
Yep.
better figure it
It's not good.
All right, so I have a last game to play before we get into Rachel Meter.
Okay.
And but one last thing, anything else you'd like to talk about? Favorite parts, favorite scenes, acting, characters, anything that you want to touch on?
I feel like I covered my ground.
Lovely.
And yeah, I feel a lot of closure.
Okay.
I feel good about it.
I want you to just associate a number to these individuals in a game that I like to call Rank the Hotness.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to say characters, and you're going to tell me a number that they rank on the scale. You can only do 0.5s, so it's not into 0.25s. If we have somebody tied, so you say 7.5, don't say 7.25.
So like 1 to 10, is that
Yeah,
what
1 to 10.
my range? Okay.
1 to 10 is your range,
Okay,
but you can do
0.5s.
0.5s.
Okay, half scores is great.
And if people are close, we'll just revisit them. We'll make sure that we have them all figured out, so we have a ranking. All right, starting us off, Jack.
8.5.
Sawyer.
6.5.
Hurley.
Oh, he's a nice person.
I know.
You can
I'm
be-
going to
you can
pick
be a
people.
dick about
I'm
it.
not going to pick people that are all attractive.
Or what are we talking about?
I'm talking about just attractiveness, not personality.
Okay, 3.
Jin.
8.
Charlie.
5.
Saeed.
7.
Locke. I love it because some of these I'm like waiting to be surprised and I totally wasn't there.
I'll do a 4.
Desmond.
I'm all over the place. I don't know where my numbers are anymore. 6.5.
Oh, that's lower than I thought it would be.
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm
He
shocked.
used to be higher. I don't know.
Yeah, at some point he lost ground with you.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Benjamin Linus.
2.
Jacob.
Oh, Jacob. 5.
Mr. Echo.
Mr. Echo. 5.
Boone.
7.
Russian guy with the eye patch.
5.
Smoke monster, but in smoke form.
Oh, very hot. Very hot. That was 9.5.
So
So smoky.
that's very smoky. I like it. What about when he's in human form?
9.5 still. He's kind of cute.
So he's the hottest guy in the show for you?
No,
Is
he's
the
not
smoke
the hottest. I mean, but he is attractive.
Okay.
But he's not the hottest guy.
So
no.
the hottest guy in the show for you was Jack?
It's Jack, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Obvi.
Yep. And
And
then Jin was
Jin.
number 2.
Oh, especially like
and
later
Saeed was,
Jin.
I think, number 3 for you.
So I should say Sawyer and Saeed are pretty close.
Sawyer and Saeed, and Desmond's lower than all of them?
No, he's close too. I don't know. I
Sawyer,
honestly,
Saeed, and
this.
Desmond are probably all three
We'll put
like in
them
the
all
same
about
range?
the same. I can give Sawyer a little bit of a boost, but not much.
Okay. But Jack and Jen are your top two.
Yeah, I feel good about that. Your turn?
Well, Kate's number one.
Yeah.
Kate, 10. Son, 9.5. I think she's very attractive.
Yeah, for sure. We're right in sync so far.
I think, I'm trying to think of the other gals. Like
Juliet's
cute. 8.5 or 9.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Penny, like a 7.
Mm-hmm. Libby.
Like a 7.
Rose.
Oh, Rosemary's so sweet because she's so awesome. But she's like a 3, but she's so cool.
Charlotte.
Charlotte the redhead?
Yeah.
6. Claire?
Yep.
Pregnant?
Pregnant
9.5.
Whoa.
Just kidding. Non-pregnant? 7. Probably a 7.
Shannon.
6.5.
Jack's mom.
Don't remember what she looks like, so she is going to be 2.
Nice.
Daniel Faraday's mom, 10. He's got like wiry, crazy gray hair.
She's
She
got
looks
this,
like
white
the Bride
ghost
of
hair.
Frankenstein.
She's a scary looking gal. Like her
Yeah, for
eyebrows
sure.
are permanently arched.
I don't know when Kate fell off my top 5 list. It happened sometime like in the mid 2010s.
Yeah, it happened when you took a hard turn
Away from
to
you.
blondes.
Rach loves to call me out about this, how my top 5 is a lot of blondes, and you hate it.
Well, here's what I like to make fun of you about.
January
It's because,
Jones, Brie Larson.
yeah, you say you don't have a type. You're like, no, I'm not really into blondes. I'm
not. As I don't.
Ladies and
Rachel
gentlemen
McAdams,
of
number
the
1.
audience, let the record show that Ty just reported that he is not into blondes. However, let's examine the circumstances. If we look
Gal Gadot,
at your
brunette.
top 10, if we looked at your
Natalie
top
Portman.
10, it is
She's in top 10.
60 to 70% blonde. 60 to 70% of your top 10
Well,
is blonde.
Kate might be moving back in there, so she's going to mess up the ratio a little bit.
Well, who's moving out? Is it a blondie or is
Nobody
it a
knows.
brunette?
It's probably Elizabeth Banks or Kristen Bell or something. I don't know.
Again, and we're not even just like dirty blonde or like light
Blonde.
like dark blonde, but we're talking about like platinum blonde. We're talking about like Playboy
Khaleesi
Bunny
blonde.
blonde. Yeah. So there it is. You
Well,
always want what you can't
It's a lot
have.
of judgment. There's a lot of
It's
judgment.
not.
coming
I just
from
want you to just be honest about it. You just hide it like you're ashamed of it.
Oh, well, I'm sorry that. I mean, I love the fact that the guys you talk about a lot, like Kyle Chandler,
I
Matthew
like
Fox,
older dad bod men. That's the thing.
who are usually
I will,
brunette.
I will own
It
that.
really bodes well for me, is what I'll say. Every time I rethink about it, I'm like, gosh, I really got it good. Like, I don't have to worry that much.
My wife likes
My wife likes
type of
guys that look like me. That's cool.
Yeah. No worries.
So this show for me is a top 5er. We already kind of talked about this Friday
Mm-hmm.
Night Lights. It's definitely in that top 5 with the OC, FNL, which I think FNL still is my favorite show.
Yeah.
After doing
it's
some
so
retrospective
excellent.
thought about it. Yeah, it's just so good. Where does it sit for you?
I think I can say top 5, but I have to like think about all the shows I've ever watched.
Yeah.
And I think
you-
it's a top 5er.
Do you like
Pretty
Friday
sure.
Night Lights more than this?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Yeah.
Season 2 of Friday Night Lights versus season 5 of Lost. What would you rather watch again?
What happened in season 2 of Friday Night Lights?
That
was
was
that
the
the
terrible
one?
season.
Was that 2?
That's the death and all
It was
that.
2?
They're trying to
I
hide the
thought it was
body.
3.
No,
Yeah, that
3
was
was
very
great.
bad.
3 is J.D. McCoy.
Oh gosh, that was so bad.
I would pick season 5 of Lost.
I think I would go with Friday Night Lights.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
because there were still other things. I think if
that's
you
true.
take
Like
just
the Saracen, like everybody leaves me moments in that.
yeah, if you
episode.
just
Yeah,
like
that's
clip
true.
out
Yeah, season.
the film of that little moment, I think there were other things that were salvageable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't feel that way about that Lost.
Cool. Well, any parting thoughts on Lost? Recommendation?
Yes, strong recommendation. Get past. I mean, for starters, make the deal to yourself that you're going to watch season 1 as a whole.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Don't quit after
quit.
the polar bears. I know it's weird. I know you're like, ugh, polar bears.
Your sister right now is stuck. I think, according to her boyfriend Cullum, Nat's stuck on like episode 6.
Yeah.
She's got to push through.
I would push through, finish season 1, and then you'll know. I think then you'll know. And it's okay if you're ready to be done there.
Yeah,
just
for
know
sure.
that, like, yeah, I think if you know that you'll have some things that won't be answered. Obviously, if you listen to this, it's spoiled for you, so shame on you.
Nat, don't listen to this.
Yeah. But yeah, I think at least give season 1 a try, and then I think if you don't like that, then you won't like it. I would say then it's not for you.
Yep. Cool. I also encourage my friends who have watched Lost a long time ago to go back and revisit it. It's been 10 years, and there are moments in season 1 where we'll come across a little cheesy, but they'll work out the kinks, and it's still a beautiful season. I think it's awesome. So I think you'll enjoy your trek through this journey again. I think it's really fun.
Yeah, it was fun to watch you rewatch it because
I
there
forgot
was
so much.
so much that you like reacted to like you had never seen it before.
Yeah.
'Cause you had just forgotten or just didn't process.
Yep,
So
for sure.
that was fun. It was like it was new again.
It was new again.
Yeah.
I purposely didn't want to ruin the last episode for myself, but I remember the church like to a T, but I didn't remember any of the stuff on the island.
Yeah.
I didn't even remember Jack dying on the island at the end.
What?
I know, is that crazy? But I remember the church, like him walking out the doors, Christian opening the doors and the light. I remembered all that.
Wow.
So that stuck with me.
Interesting.
But the beautiful moment of him like staring up at the
Yeah,
sky,
that's-
seeing the plane go by, and the
that
dog next to him,
moment?
I didn't remember that.
Wow, I feel like I've had that moment spoiled for me. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Well, this was an extra long deep dive. We're kind of like Dan Carlin does Hardcore History, which are like 6-hour, like deep dives in the Pacific War and stuff like that. That's kind of what we're doing right now. We're doing these deep, intimate dives into the work. We're getting really nitty gritty, getting our hands dirty,
I feel like we should have made this a 2-parter.
I mean, it might be.
This is
it might get
long.
released as one. But I hope you guys enjoy it. We will be back with more digestible episodes in the future.
This is just to tide you over through spring break.
You over, a little spring breaky poo surprise. And we will return with our usual format in probably May-ish, maybe June.
Who knows?
Yep. We'll throw some in the can, and then we'll start pumping those bad boys out. We have some fun stuff on the docket, though.
Yeah,
I was looking at our
Summer's
movies.
Off
It's gonna be
season
good.
4 is gonna be
It's gonna be
a blasty blast.
Spicy ride. Maybe a spice worldy ride. We'll have to see.
Let's do spoilers.
Hugs and kisses. Rate and review. Love you. All right, let's do a little test run.
Uh-oh. I got something in my eye. Oh,
Yep,
no.
this is great material.
Hold on.
Keep going.
No. hold on.
Perfect.
Pause.
No pause.
Oh, I got it.
Oh,
look
you are
at it.
nice and
Look at
loud,
this
babe.
Baby eyelash. Let's give it a little wish.
You know what you should start doing is you should pick goobers out of your eyes, and then you should go to people and be like, "Hey, make a wish."
Gross.
Gotcha, Bodge.